Romanian Eagle. This video is purely for entertainment and does not infringe on copyrights or laws. The rights to the novel and image belong to the original author. We do not claim ownership. Don't like waiting and want to listen to this fanfic in full now? Subscribe to our Patreon, where you'll find the best fanfics. Chapter 51. Rudolf Diesel. After arranging for Oral Freku to develop a practical aircraft, Edel continued to check the document in front of him, which was a message about Rudolf Diesel, the inventor of the diesel engine. When the power laboratory was established before, Edel also sent an invitation, hoping that the genius could come to Romania to work. But Rudolf Diesel at the time was not short of funds and did not agree to Edel's invitation. Now that the genius inventor has lost a lot of money investing in stocks and is on the verge of getting into trouble, maybe it's a good opportunity. This time Edel called the captain of the guard, Callist, you send 2 people to Augsburg and invite Rudolf Diesel to Romania again. Okay, your highness. What about the treatment of this inventor? The chief guard asked. Last time, the crown prince offered the inventor an annual salary of 100,000 marks, and his improved diesel engine can obtain 2% of the patent. The royalties also failed to impress the inventor. Now that the crown prince has invited again, Karist is a little disgusted. The crown prince understands the thoughts of the captain of the bodyguard very well, but they are all innocuous and trivial matters. It's normal to have a few geniuses, and Edel can tolerate their petty temper, as long as it's good for Romania. You ask the person who invited you to bring this letter from Karist. I believe Rudolf Diesel will agree this time. Edel picked up a letter on the desk, handed it to the captain of the guard, and preached. The captain of the guard took the letter, and walked out of the room, to arrange for the staff to invite the inventor again. After watching the chief guard leave the office, Edel picked up another document in his hand and shook his head helplessly. It reads the news that academician Moronia of the power laboratory was injured by flying parts during an oil extraction machine improvement experiment. The only Romanian power researcher who could take a shot was injured, so Edel could only find the inventor of the diesel engine again. Hope this time can change his fate and strengthen Romania's technological strength. Rudolf Diesel arrived early this morning at his factory near Augsburg, the inventor suffering from the recent turbulent financial crisis. Due to the large number of stock purchases before, the result was a sharp depreciation in the financial crisis, coupled with the unfavorable promotion of diesel engines in automobiles, and now the huge losses make Rudolf Diesel live every day like a year. Not long after Rudolf Diesel went to work today, the secretary came in and said, "The boss has 2 gentlemen looking for you. They say they are from Romania." After hearing the secretary's words, Rudolf Diesel thought for a moment and knew their purpose. Romania invited him once 2 years ago and gave him a good deal. But Rudolf Diesel had a business of his own at the time, and it was going well. He refused to go to work for others because he was not very interested. Don't know what they want this time, but take a look. Please come in and pour me 3 cups of coffee, Rudolf Diesel said to his secretary. The secretary let in 2 visitors from Romania, served 3 cups of coffee, and closed the door. Rudolf Diesel asked first after the secretary closed the door, "I don't know what the 2 of you have to do with me." When asked by Rudolf Diesel, the visitor in the chair on the left was the first to answer. "Hello Mr. Rudolf Diesel, my name is Mark Sikaslow." He pointed to his companion and continued, "This is my companion Snau Frostlewer. We came here today to hear that Mr. Rudolf Diesel has been in a little trouble recently. Our crown prince believes that a great inventor like Mr. Rudolf Diesel should not be disturbed by these mundane things. It's a good idea to focus on more important things, like making the diesel engine even better." Rudolf Diesel listened to this Romanian named Mark Sikaslow, chattering and persuading himself to accept Romania's invitation. In his heart, he was actually a little resistant. No one was willing to help others, and Rudolf Diesel was no exception. If it weren't for the economic pressure now, Rudolf Diesel would have rejected them as he did last time. Then what is your crown prince doing to me? Rudolf Diesel asked after Mark Sikaslow had finished speaking. He also wants to hear the conditions of Crown Prince Edel. If the conditions are generous, it is not unacceptable. After hearing Rudolf Diesel's loose words, the 2 visitors looked at each other and were secretly happy in their hearts. Or Mark Sikaslow, "We don't know this, but our highness specially sent a letter to your excellency, and I believe it should have a description on it. After speaking, he took out the letter from his underwear pocket and handed it to Rudolf Diesel. Rudolf Diesel took the letter and opened it. It said the Crown Prince's greetings to him, and it was also mentioned in terms of treatment. Annual salary of 200,000 marks plus 2% royalties. That is to say, for the diesel engine designed by Rudolf Diesel, he can get a patent fee of 2% of the selling price. At the same time, he was invited to serve as director ZHU of the Romanian Power Laboratory, and he would receive no less than 3 million marks each year for a search point. After reading the letter, Rudolf Diesel was shocked by the generosity of Crown Prince Edel. To know that according to this condition, Rudolf Diesel's financial situation will be improved, and there is no fear of bankruptcy. My own factory doesn't make that much profit in a year. Now Rudolf Diesel is really moved, but he still has to be restrained. In face point, let me think about it, Rudolf Diesel told the two visitors, folding the letter and putting it in his jacket pocket. When the two saw Rudolf Diesel's actions, they knew that this man was already moved, and they both stood up and prepared to leave without urging them. Then we will wait for your excellency's reply. We will be staying at the Billig Hotel. If you have anything, you can come to us and say goodbye first. Mark Zakuslo said goodbye to Rudolf Diesel and the two left. Rudolf Diesel came home and told his wife what had happened today. The wife said happily, "Diesel is much better than your current factory, and you don't have to worry about whether there is a bank to collect the account." With the support of his family, Rudolf Diesel finally decided to sell the factory to someone else and do his own research. On the third day, Rudolf Diesel agreed to Eda's invitation and promised to go to Romania in a month's time. Let Eda get the news very happy. Romania finally has a real power expert. Chapter 52, Development Direction of Diesel Engines. Mr. Rudolf Diesel welcomes you to Romania. The inventor of the diesel engine was greeted at the Bucharest railway station by the captain of the guard, Karist. Rudolf Diesel learned after some exchange. This Mr. Karist was the chief guard of the Crown Prince. This surprised Rudolf Diesel. From the attitudes of these people, he could feel that Romania attached great importance to him, which was not found in Germany. His Royal Highness the Crown Prince hopes to have lunch with Mr. Rudolf Diesel, so that your excellency can feel the enthusiasm of the Romanians. I'm very honored to be invited by His Royal Highness. Of course Rudolf Diesel would not refuse the invitation of the Crown Prince. The two were driving on the road to the palace in a car. Your excellency, the captain of the guard, do you know what I need to pay attention to when I meet the Crown Prince? Rudolf Diesel asked the captain, a little restrained. When he met the royal family for the first time. His Royal Highness is a very easygoing person. You don't have to pay attention at all. Karist soothed the inventor. When the two arrived at the palace, the captain of the guard led Rudolf Diesel all the way to the drawing room, where Rudolf Diesel met and was waiting for his Crown Prince Edel. Nice to meet you, Your Excellency Rudolf Diesel. Edel also greeted Rudolf Diesel without any scruples. I'm very grateful that I can get the Crown Prince's attention. Rudolf Diesel is not a wood, and he is very moved by the Crown Prince's attention. After the two greeted each other, Edel also asked what the recent diesel inventor was thinking. Mr. Rudolf Diesel, where do you plan to start when you take over the power laboratory? Rudolf Diesel sat up straight and answered Edel's question. His Royal Highness, I plan to continue to improve the diesel engine. I think the diesel engine has strong power and low fuel consumption. As long as we can make the diesel engine small enough, it will be no problem to install it on the car. And we can also install the diesel engine on the warship. Is there any problem now? Few ships are powered by diesel engines. Edel heard that Rudolf Diesel was still planning to compete with the gasoline engine in the car. As for marine diesel engines, they can only be used on small boats. There is no way for large boats. Moreover, he has not said the shortcomings of diesel engines. Edel can only break his illusion. We all know the advantages and disadvantages of the Rudolf diesel engine, and we believe that it is impossible for a passenger car to use a diesel engine under the current technological conditions. It is noisy, vibrates, and is larger in size and weight than a gasoline engine. And the material requirements are higher, and it will be more expensive than a gasoline engine. You need to warm up to use in winter. You are also very clear. Rudolf Diesel looked at Crown Prince Eda and kept talking about the shortcomings of diesel engines and couldn't help but ask, Then His Highness thinks that the diesel engine should be developed in which direction? It's not like asking me to take a rest. Edel heard the dissatisfaction in Rudolf Diesel's tone. Said to him with a smile. There are also many advantages of diesel engines. You can see that they have long lifespan, good durability, good terrain adaptation, high safety factor, and diesel engines are not easy to catch fire. I think it can be developed into military vehicles and agricultural vehicles, which is a good choice. Marine power can as a long-term goal. What we need to do now is to make diesel engines widely available, which is not possible for passenger cars now. Rudolf Diesel fell silent after hearing the Crown Prince's words. Now his awareness of Edel has improved a lot. After thinking about the Crown Prince's proposal, I found that it is really a good direction. I'm sorry, Your Highness, I was too impulsive just now. I didn't expect you to have such a high understanding of diesel engines. This is something I didn't expect before. Rudolf Diesel sincerely thanked Edel for pointing him in the direction. You're too kind, Rudolf Diesel. In fact, you can find these directions by changing your mind. Edel said to Rudolf Diesel, is this the experience of later generations? I was too impatient to notice. After the two talked for a while, they both felt that the other was good. Edel was aware of Rudolf Diesel's thorough understanding of power plants. Rudolf Diesel admired the extraordinary vision of the Crown Prince. After having lunch together, Edel brought Rudolf Diesel to the dynamics lab. The laboratory staff had long known that Rudolf Diesel was coming today and wanted to see the inventor of the diesel engine. But when the Crown Prince brought Rudolf Diesel in person, everyone could feel that the Crown Prince valued him. His Royal Highness, Mr. Diesel, this is our studio. Maloney's assistant pointed to the place where he usually worked and said to the Crown Prince and Rudolf Diesel, he is also a clever man. Otherwise he would not have been promoted to assistant by Moronia. What do you think of this laboratory, Diesel? Edel turned his head and asked Rudolf Diesel. After a good conversation before, the two met and became friends late. Now Edel is showing his attitude to the people in the laboratory. The current king of Europe does not have a friend in the scientific community. His Royal Highness's laboratory is much better than my previous one, and the equipment is well maintained. I believe that a good engine will be made here soon. Rudolf Diesel replied to the Crown Prince, and he was still very clear about it. I need to come up with a result so that everyone can see that I'm worthy of the Crown Prince's attention. Diesel, let me congratulate you in advance on your good results here. The Crown Prince said praise to Rudolf Diesel. After speaking, he turned to the laboratory staff on a whim. You all know him. I saw pictures in newspapers before, but now I see myself. I only knew the name before, but now I know each other. For a while, the scientific researchers here started talking. Edel looked a little embarrassed at the lively scene and saw a table next to it standing on it, signaling everyone to be quiet, and people saw the Crown Prince's gesture. Calm down. We all know who he is. Now let your new director Rudolf Diesel tell you a few words. The Crown Prince finally got the result he wanted. Okay. Rudolf Diesel knew that it was the Crown Prince who was promoting him and stood up at the table politely and spoke to the people below. I'm not here to be the savior. I just want to work with you to develop our power laboratory. We want to let the whole of Europe know that our laboratory is an indispensable part of European dynamics. Do you have any confidence? Yes. The man below answered him loudly. Diesel, your speech is very encouraging, and I hope you can do your best. But I still have things to do, and I have to go first. Edel said to Rudolf Diesel. Okay, Your Highness, thank you very much for sending me here today. I'll send you off, Crown Prince. Rudolf Diesel offered to send the Crown Prince out. No, you need to know your subordinates now, so I won't bother. After that, the Crown Prince left with the guards. Here's to researchers talking as they pass by with their backs to him. It's amazing that Fritz Haber invented synthetic ammonia in Germany. Edel heard that this synthetic ammonia seemed to have been mentioned in a previous life, but Edel continued to walk out quietly, intending to return to the palace and ask someone to investigate. After the Crown Prince left, Moronia's assistant asked where Rudolf Diesel planned to start. What were you guys doing before? The assistant said the small agricultural diesel engine that Edel had asked for. Rudolf Diesel said, then let's start with that. Chapter 53, Synthetic Ammonia. When Edel returned to the palace, He asked the guards to find the synthetic ammonia information and began to check it. After some learning, Edel finally understood the technology. This is an item invented by Fritz Haber this year. Ammonia is directly synthesized from nitrogen and hydrogen under high temperature and pressure and in the presence of a catalyst. It is a basic inorganic chemical process. However, it is still a laboratory work and has not entered industrial production. Now the most important role is as a raw material for the explosives industry, which can replace the role of saltpeter. Since most of the saltpeter mines are now in Chile, they are mainly controlled by the British. Then the ammunition of other countries is in the control of the British. After all, ammonia is an indispensable raw material. Cluster. Arrange for someone to get to know Fritz Haber, who invented synthetic ammonia. Let's see how far he has researched. We can convert them into industrial investment, and it is best to obtain production authorization. Edel called the captain of the guard to instruct him. Yes, your highness, I will arrange for a reliable person to do it. The chief of the guard was also unequivocal and immediately went down to arrange personnel. After answering the crown prince. Call Sakaslo and Reserva for me. Kerist, who returned to his office, sent someone to call over the two guys who had invited Rudolf Diesel. We just came back from a business trip, so why let us go again? Sakaslo and Ross River, who were called, complained to the captain of the guards when they learned that they were asked to go on a mission again. Kerist stared at the two of them without answering, and the two who were stared at by the captain of the guard felt unbearable. Sakaslo said quickly, "Okay, let's go." The two took the task and walked out of Kerist's office. Reserva told Sakaslo, "You still don't understand the head. There is no possibility of negotiating to arrange your task." I know. I just couldn't help but want to say a few words. So many guards arranged for us to go. Sakaslo said to his partner, and then complained about his partner. "Hey, I'm not trying to get some benefits for us. Can't you say a few words for me? I can't help with this. You are the only one in the entire bodyguard regiment who dares to argue a few words with the captain of the guards. I still admire you." Reserva wore a high hat to his partner. The two soon came to Karlsruhe by train, and after some inquiries they found Fritz Haber, a professor at the University of Karlsruhe. After getting to know the two of them, Fritz Haber took them to his laboratory. "This is my masterpiece." Fritz Haber pointed to the ammonia synthesis plant consisting of closed systems such as converters, compressors and circulating pumps. In fact, the two of them had long been stunned in the face of a series of professional terms from Fritz Haber, but fortunately, Fritz Haber just brought them to see the production status of synthetic ammonia. After some experimental operations, the two saw the liquid ammonia that was just produced. Professor Fritz Haber is unbelievable. Your experiment was so successful. Is this the magic of science? It's fascinating. We need to send a telegram to the country and report everything we have seen with our own eyes. Believe it will soon bring a lot of money to the professor. Still the most slick. Sakaslo told Professor Fritz Haber, "Okay, we researchers also need funds to strengthen the power of science and technology. So there is no difference between us on this point. The only difference is that we provide intelligence and you provide money." Professor Fritz Haber looked at, "I've been looking for sponsors a lot, and I'm also very knowledgeable when it comes to the scene." By the way, Professor, your synthetic ammonia technology can be fully industrialized. I heard that there is no chemical factory to discuss cooperation matters. This is completely unbelievable. Sakaslo asked this before leaving, which made Fritz a little bit. Professor Haber's embarrassing question. "I don't know that. I guess they don't like it." Hearing Sakaslo's question, Professor Fritz Haber himself was a little depressed. "This promising experiment of my own should, in principle, be needed by many chemical plants. But many people don't quite believe his experiments, and he himself has gained indifference and doubts, which makes Professor Fritz Haber speechless." Before Sakaslo and the others came, Professor Fritz Haber's last hope was his friend and colleague Engel. Now Engel is working as a consultant at BASF. He believes that Fritz Haber's synthetic ammonia is a masterpiece of changing the chemical industry, so that Germany can no longer be affected by the British control of saltpeter. So he is also trying his best to BASF recommended, but BASF has not responded yet. After seeing the synthetic ammonia with their own eyes, Sakaslo and Ross River sent a report to Edel, who was waiting for news in the country, and described everything they had seen. Edda in the palace soon saw the telegram sent by the two, and did not expect that there was such a story in Fritz Haber's synthetic ammonia. If it wasn't for Edda's memory of a previous life and a little impression of synthetic ammonia, then this technology would have no connection with Romania. It is expected that this technology will only be obtained after World War I, which is impossible for Edda, who is bent on seeking more benefits for Romania in World War I. Facing such an opportunity, Edel will not give up. Anda soon sent a telegram to the two waiting for news in Karlsruhe. Hi Sakaslo, what did the telegram say? Roslewer asked his partner, who was watching the telegram carefully. See for yourself. Sakaslo handed him the telegram he had read, and Rosarova looked at it with the telegram. In the cable, they are required in China to sponsor the Fritz Haber laboratory of no more than 1 million gold marks, more than £40,000. However, 800,000 of this money can only be used for the industrial research of synthetic ammonia, and the other 200,000 is a personal funding for Fritz Haber. As a condition, Fritz Haber had to authorize Romania to use his synthetic ammonia technology. In terms of the achievements of industrialization, Fritz Haber and the individuals and manufacturers who will join in the future cannot have an agreement to exclude Romanian use. This is really a generous donation. If only I had 1 million marks. Roslewer sighed enviously after reading the telegram. Yeah, if you go to apply to the Crown Prince, maybe you will arrive. Sakaslo taunted his partner. Can't you think about it yet? Rosarova was obviously mocked and couldn't hold back his face. Well, we need to tell the conditions to Professor Fritz Haber. The two ended the dispute and came to Professor Fritz Haber's laboratory again, and Fritz Haber, who met them, knew that there was a result. Hello Professor. Today, I sent a message from China. I'm very interested in the synthetic ammonia technology. I hope to get your authorization to use it. Sakaslo said straight to the point after he came in. What, when you don't know the conditions? Fritz Haber asked the crucial question. Sakaslo told the professor that he had seen the conditions on the telegram and said that Fritz Haber was quite satisfied with the conditions. After calling his partner Osijol for discussion, he decided to accept the Romanian conditions. The cable about Fritz Haber's approval of Romania's use of ammonia technology was quickly placed on Edda's desk. Edda still sees clearly on synthetic ammonia, and this technology will definitely be used in the explosives industry in the future. Romania's national strength is too weak, and it can't keep this technology. It can only drink soup. During the First World War, saltpeter could not be transported into the Black Sea, and it had to find a way. Fritz Haber's synthetic ammonia technology is a good opportunity. Chapter 54 Electricity Supply. After Edda got the synthetic ammonia technology, he continued to care about the Romanian industrial construction led by himself. After more than 3 years of construction, a large number of factories have been established in Bucharest, Constanta, Ploiesti, etc. Large factories have all kinds of supporting facilities, but in many small factories with dozens of people, the conditions are not so good. Right now Edel is looking at the stats on this. The most stressful thing right now is electricity. In several industrial cities, the electricity supply is not bad due to the existence of large factories. However, there are also power cuts. In addition to the situation of domestic electricity consumption, the demand will continue to increase in the next few years. I can only count on the royal family to pay for infrastructure. Edda is also very troubled about this. Now the government's finances are struggling to cope with the reorganization of the army. It is still completed on the premise that the number of factories has gradually increased in the past 2 years and the fiscal revenue has increased of point. If it is still in the previous economic situation, the government will not be able to make contingency plans. Previously, Prime Minister Schuli failed to pay enough salaries to the following officials because the government was short of money. It was talked about by the lower level officials, and these voices disappeared after they were finally made up for it. Go and invite Mr. Hersman, advisor. Edel instructed the captain of the guard. Now the Crown Prince needs to understand the future growth trend of electricity supply in order to purposefully reduce the occurrence of this situation. Edel met Hersman in the office the next day. As a German, Hersman has a unique German rigor and is extremely responsible for his work. Occasionally, he likes to travel, and enjoy the beautiful scenery of various places I have seen His Royal Highness. I don't know what I can do for the Crown Prince. Hersman knew that the Crown Prince must have something to do with him, so he asked directly. Helsman, you are an electricity expert. Do you have any good advice for Romania's current electricity shortage? The Crown Prince asked Hersman, hoping that he could give professional advice. Helsman has been working in Romania for several years, first at Siemens, and later as a technologist at a small thermal power plant in Romania. Later, Edel got to know him during an inspection, and the Crown Prince felt that Hersman's ability was not bad. After paying for the goods in Germany, he made him his own consultant, specializing in providing electricity consulting for Edel. Crown Prince, the problem of the current shortage of electricity is because Romania's industry is developing rapidly, and the construction of power plants has not kept up due to the large investment. Helsman said euphemistically, this is Edel's previous purchase of equipment not thoughtful. How could Edel not hear what Helsman meant? He had no experience in introducing equipment and technology before, and only cared about the more conspicuous industries such as steel, chemical industry, and military industry. At that time, only 10 5,000 kilowatt generator sets were prepared. The prediction was very good, but the small factories for supporting the project were not taken into account. In addition, the power plants are of the nature of large investment and low return, and almost no investment from private funds has been obtained. Capital likes industries with higher returns, such as investing in light industry, finance, etc. Now I plan to change this phenomenon. I wonder what reasonable advice Mr. Helsman can give me. Edel also stated his request unequivocally. Hearing the Crown Prince's question, Helsman replied, I think the current construction of power facilities needs to take into account the development in the next few years. Romania has good hydropower resources, and hydropower stations can be built to solve the problem of power supply for cities near rivers. Other cities can build nearby thermal power plants. I heard the consultant's suggestion that the electricity produced by the hydroelectric power station is cheaper, but the initial investment is too large, 3 to 4 times that of the thermal power plant. Edel plans to have more money. The construction cost of thermal power stations is relatively economical, with serious management pollution, high personnel costs, and high operating costs, but now is not the time to consider this issue. To solve the problem first. Mr. Consultant, can you predict Romania's electricity demand in a few years? Edel asked his most concerned topic. Okay, Your Royal Highness, I predict that Romania will need an installed capacity of 300,000 to 400,000 kilowatts in a few years to meet the demand, and the consumption of Constanta will be a little more. Faced with the question of the Crown Prince, Hersman gave out his own suggestion. After a conversation between Crown Prince Edel and Hersman, he learned about the current electricity usage in Romania. Also have a general understanding of the future development of electricity. Thank you very much for your help, Your Excellency Hersman. I will fully consider your suggestion, Edel said to Hersman, and then turned to the captain of the bodyguard. Send to His Excellency Helsman for me. Callist stepped forward and stretched out his hand to guide the consultant. Your Excellency Hersman, please. Helsman nodded to the captain of the guard. Thanks. After Edel sent off Helsman, he pondered what the advisor had just said. Now the price of a 10,000 kilowatt thermal power unit is around £15,000 to £18,000. According to the minimum standard, the photoelectric generator set will cost £450,000, plus other supporting boilers, steam turbines, etc., at least £800,000, to meet the minimum demand. Edel knew that one stop would explode in a few years when Romania returned to a period of rapid economic growth. Hersman's estimate is far from enough. According to Edel's estimate, there is an installed capacity of 500,000 kilowatts to basically meet the demand. According to Edel's plan, it will take 1.4 million to 1.6 million pounds to meet the demand, and now the royal family's funds are deducted, and it is necessary to pay back the US payment for goods and leave a reserve. Only 3.14 million pounds is available. The money Edel also has other users. The deduction is only 1.2 million pounds, which is obviously not enough. Even here, Edel sighed. Industry is difficult to build. I don't know how in the books I read in my previous life how others easily established industrialization. Edel thought about it carefully. There was no good way, and suddenly thought of a crisis that caused the collapse of the government of a major country in the east. Maybe this could be used to raise funds for his power plant. However, before that, it is still necessary to consider the issue of power plant construction. Edel called the captain of the bodyguard, Karist, and asked him to send a tender message to Siemens in Germany and General Motors. The total installed capacity of a batch of thermal power plants needed to be built was 500,000 kilowatt-hours. Soon, the message was placed into on the desks of the company's top executives. In the face of big business worth around £1.5 million, both companies take it seriously. GM decided to send a company executive to lead the team to participate in the tender, and Siemens also decided to send a vice president to lead the team to participate. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelos. There you'll find the original version of this story, and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 55 Power Plant Bidding. In the face of Romania's tender, Germany's Siemens was the first to arrive because of the distance. After they came to Romania, they found Herzmann, a former employee of the company who is now an advisor to the Crown Prince. Mr. Herzmann, as a former colleague, don't know if you can give us any good suggestions in this tender? We will be very grateful. Dika Silt, the deputy general manager of Siemens, led the team this time. Asked after seeing Herzmann. I'm just a consultant, and I can't give you any advice. If you absolutely need advice, it's about cost effectiveness. As a consultant, Herzmann faced questions from his former company vice president and knew his own position. The decision-making power of Romania's bidding this time is in the hands of Crown Prince Edel, and it is better not to intervene as a small advisor. The Crown Prince's friendship Herzmann still cherishes very much. When Deckard Sturt saw Herzmann, he was unwilling to exert his own influence on Siemens and did not say anything more. This is just one of many options for Deckard Sturt, the best one being the German ambassador, Baselober. After Borges, the former German ambassador, returned to China last year to improve his grades, Baselob took over for him, leaving a good impression in the Kaiser's heart. Borges, who was ready to return to China, learned about Romania and shared it with his successor after Baselob humbly asked for advice. At the same time, it reminded him that Crown Prince Edel of Romania is an inescapable key figure. Dika Sturt went to visit the German embassy after meeting Herzmann. Deckard Sturt arrives at the embassy on Ploiesti Street. The German embassy is a 3-story building, built in 1877. There is a warehouse behind the building, which has now been converted into an office space. It started with a businessman who built the premises for office and storage. Then the businessman went bankrupt and was bought by the German Foreign Office for use as an embassy. Ambassador Baselob had long been waiting in the embassy for the arrival of Deckard Sturt. Good afternoon, Your Excellency Ambassador. Deckard Sturt said hello after seeing Ambassador Baselob. Hello Mr. Sturt, it's a pleasure to meet you in Romania. Ambassador Baselob said in response. After saying hello to each other, Deckard Sturt said his intentions. Ambassador Baselob had long known that the Siemens vice president was here for the Romanians' power order, and he was also applauding the Crown Prince's generosity before. Now he is obliged to win this order for the German company. Of course, it would be better if Siemens can be a little more interesting. Thinking of this, Ambassador Baselob pondered. Mr. Sturt, it is also our embassy's obligation to secure orders for German companies. However, to meet the Crown Prince, we need to make an appointment in advance. In addition, these days, I need to be busy with the finishing work of the construction of the loan. Do you think it's okay to wait a few days? Deckard Sturt is not a fool if he can be the vice president and immediately understands that Mr. Ambassador does not want to work in vain. Before, they didn't plan to let the ambassador help in vain, but they didn't expect that the ambassador of Baselob was a little anxious. Thinking of the information about this ambassador that I had seen before, this Baselob had a bad reputation in the diplomatic system. If it wasn't for a high-ranking official standing behind him, he would not have gotten this easy seat. Deckard Sturt said directly after understanding what Mr. Ambassador meant. Mr. Ambassador, don't you know, if you are free tonight, I want to invite you to taste some specialties from your hometown in Germany. Decade Sturt accentuates the word specialty. Ambassador Baslab's eyes lit up, and he obviously understood what Dick Assault meant. I haven't tasted the taste of my hometown for a long time. I will definitely come over at night, Mr. Ambassador said, completely disregarding the fact that he ate German sausages at noon and drank Munich beer the next day. The satisfied ambassador stood before Edel and begged the crown prince to consider the role of German relations. It is hoped that this order can be left to German companies. Mr. Ambassador, I can understand that you are running for a German company, but this is a commercial act. After all, I'm the Crown Prince of Romania, and I need to be responsible to the Romanians. I can't guarantee that Germany will get this order. Considering our country and Germany a good relationship can only be said that, if the performance and price are consistent, I will give priority to German companies. Facing the request of Ambassador Baslab, Edel said it, after thinking for a while. After getting the Crown Prince's reply, Baslab also knew that this was the Crown Prince's greatest sincerity. I'm very grateful to His Royal Highness for his love for Germany, and I hope our two countries can maintain long-term and good relations, the ambassador said gratefully, after getting the results he wanted. After returning to the embassy, Baslab passed the news to the waiting group of Siemens. This result is very good for us. Now we need to calculate what price we should use to win this order. Dick Sturt, who got the news, ordered his opponent. Dick Sturt knew that it was unrealistic for Romania to hand over this order directly to Siemens. Now they are already half a position ahead of Grams. Although there are other companies, Dick Sturt knows this order. It will only be produced in their two companies, because only the two of them represent the highest level of the current power industry. General Motors has only just arrived, a week after Siemens has come to Romania to prepare. This time, GM led the team by a middle-aged man named Siskel. As a general manager of GM, Siskel knew that his task was very difficult. Europe has always been Siemens' territory, and this Romanian order is considered an opportunity by him. If it is made, it will allow the board of directors to see its own capabilities and help the company to open up the European market. Therefore, this time Siskel is determined to win. After coming to Romania, Siskel was no different from the previous Dick Assault and was looking for relationships everywhere. However, the United States has little influence over Romania, which makes Siskel feel a little bit bumped around. This caused Siskel's combative spirit, and he was even more self-sufficient to ask for help, and even Smith from Rockefeller was harassed by him many times. General Electric is Morgan Industries. It was soon time for the tender. In the meeting room of the Bucharest Hotel, where the tender was held, many power companies attracted by Romania's order sat quietly inside, listening to what they had known for a long time. No one was impatient, but they all listened well. The details of the order were soon told, and they were now left to vote for 2 hours to fill out the bid. Every company has a room to fill out its own form, and every company knows it's time to decide the winner and loser, and think twice about filling it out. The time to fill in soon came, and each company handed over the completed bid sheets to the organizers, and the rest could only wait for the results. Dick Sturt saw the GM Siskel and his party, and sat 3 seats away from his left hand. Time passed quickly, and it was time to announce the winning bid. Everyone present hoped that the host would say that the winning bidder was himself, which was of course impossible. The host, who was stared at by everyone, quickly said the winning company from his mouth. I declare that the winning bidder is Siemens. Chapter 56 Difficult Finances. This time Siemens won the bid, which made Dick Assault very happy, and it was worth his effort. GM once again lost in the European market, and Siskel also left in disappointment. In fact, the lowest price in the bidding is not Siemens but GM, but the price is only a reference, and there are other things that affect the bidding. In the end, Edel still chose the most favorable option for Romania, so it is not difficult to understand that Siemens of Germany won the bid when the price gap was not large. In the following discussions, Siemens will help the newly established coal power company, the company established for the construction of the power plant, to train personnel and guide the construction of the power plant. In return, Siemens can get Siemens at the same price as other equipment. Are there any other problems that need to be solved now? Edel, who was busy with the power supply, asked his chief guard. There are still many things, including the fact that the domestic medical care is backward and the neonatal mortality rate is too high. The army reports that the production of ammunition is less, which is not conducive to future combat requirements, and that the wages of workers in private factories are generally lower than those in state-run factories, and they are more expensive. Not to mention the royal estate. In terms of education, hearing Kerist's continuous reporting of various questions, Edel regretted the question just now. The chief guard's report is related to people's livelihood, education, agriculture, national defense and other major issues. The solutions that can solve these problems now require money, and are not a small amount, which makes Edel have the idea of robbing the Bank of Scotland's treasury. Now Edel can only choose one, which seems to be a simpler problem to solve. Edel was thinking about the various problems just reported by the captain of the bodyguard. The military industry can be solved first. It is a good solution for the national defense to be less investment and faster. Edel asked the captain of the guards to transfer the documents about the insufficient ammunition inventory in the army. The Bucharest arsenal has now basically reached the designed production capacity, with an annual output of 50 million rifle ammunition and 5,000 machine gun ammunition. It was designed before the reorganization. After the Russo-Japanese War, the amount of ammunition used by various countries in the military during wartime has reached a new level. After the reorganization of the Romanian army, the standard amount of ammunition consumed in daily training is 100 rounds of ammunition per soldier for 1 year, and the training of machine gunners requires 1,000 rounds a year to meet the basic requirements. In addition, the army is now fully using Mauser 7.92 caliber pointed bullets, and there was no inventory before, which has exacerbated the military's worries, so it is urgent to increase the production of bullets. The captain of the guards helped me meet with Ambassador Rob. Edel can only instruct the captain of the guards, and now he can only hope that William II can be more generous. The next day, Ambassador Baslub came to the palace to meet Edel. The Crown Prince saw Mr. Ambassador smile like a spring breeze. Ambassador Baslub is very glad that you took time out of your busy schedule to meet. Your Royal Highness, my most important job in Romania is to promote the relationship between the two countries, and His Royal Highness is the key to it. I'm honored to be summoned by the Crown Prince. Ambassador Baslub did not know what the Crown Prince was looking for. Although he did not forget to release Germany's friendship to Edel, he was still qualified as an ambassador. Mr. Baslub. Mr. Ambassador, I have a business to discuss with the ambassador. Edel said the good news first. I don't know what business needs the Crown Prince to discuss in person. Ambassador Baslub asked curiously. You know that in the ammunition production line that our country introduced before, there was a deviation in the estimate of the amount of bullets. Now we need to introduce 2 more bullet production lines. One is 50 million rounds of 7.92 caliber rifle bullets, and the other is 30 million rounds of 7.92 caliber machine gun bullets. Edel speaks out about his needs. Ambassador Baslub roughly estimated the price of the 2 bullet production lines in his heart, and it was not too expensive at about 8 million marks. If there is any problem, I can send a telegram to the domestic arsenal. I believe they are still happy to do this business. Mr. Ambassador agreed casually. Mr. Ambassador, our government's finances are relatively difficult now, and I hope this order can be included in the previous payment. Edel now expresses his request. Well, this is beyond my authority. I need to ask the country for instructions. I hope His Royal Highness will not mind. Ambassador Baslub could only send a domestic report to ask for the answer in the face of the Crown Prince's request. No problem, I will wait for your reply. After sending off the ambassador, Edel also had a new understanding of the government's financial difficulties. If it weren't for the clear financial separation between the government and the royal family, he would all have the idea of contributing to the government. But this is unrealistic, and it is not good for anyone, so the Crown Prince can only come forward to solve this difficulty. After Ambassador Baslub returned to the embassy, he sent Edel's request to the country. Let the big men consider these issues. After the German government received the message from Ambassador Baslub, it put the Romanian request on the table of Prime Minister Bernhard. Are these Romanians really that poor? Now their economic development is pretty good, the Prime Minister said to himself after picking up the telegram. After hearing the Prime Minister's words, the secretary handed over the investigation report of the German military attaché in Romania to the Prime Minister. Prime Minister Bernhard picked up the report and read it for a while. So it is facing the demands of the Romanians. Prime Minister Bernhard was reluctant to make his own decisions and took this telegram and other government reports to seek approval from the Kaiser. Bernhard knew why Wilhelm II had chosen him as Prime Minister in the palace. William II was listening to Prime Minister Bernhard's report on the various constructions of the empire. After finishing these domestic matters, the Prime Minister took out Romania's request and spoke to the Kaiser. Your Majesty, this is Romania's request for a loan to purchase 2 bullet production lines. The Kaiser took the message from the Prime Minister and read it, and after reading it, he told Prime Minister Bernhard, I remember Romania is doing well now, and I've heard about their cars in Berlin. Knowing that Wilhelm II was going to ask such a question, the Prime Minister told the Kaiser the report of the military attaché's investigation. Your Majesty, Romania's economy is developing well now, and most of it is played by the funds of the royal family. The government's investment is all in infrastructure. In addition, they are now burdened with the big burden of reorganizing the army. Now their government funds very nervous, so this time I hope to get a loan to ease the pressure on the government. After hearing the Prime Minister's statement, William II remembered his cousin who had visited him 3 years ago. The young boy, who was still relatively young at the time, is now showing extraordinary strength, make such a big contribution to economic development. This is a small amount to grant their request. William II thought that the number of 10 million marks was not a big problem, and pulling Romania into the chariot was the most important thing. Now the Kaiser's impression of Romania is that there is a capable army. This is the credit of the advisory group, a small country with a certain strength that has initially developed. Our advisory group has been in Romania for more than 3 years. William II asked the Prime Minister about the military advisory group in Romania. The head of the advisory group, Ludendorff, has been in Romania for more than 3 years. The Kaiser thought it was possible to change a group of personnel and let the military advisors in Romania return home to receive rewards. Yes, it has been more than 3 years. In fact, it is a good idea to let them return to China to receive His Majesty's medal and another group of officers to go there. Prime Minister Bernhard suggested. Prime Minister, please deal with these matters first, and I will tell Zaomeoki about it. A few days later, Edel received a message that Germany had agreed to Romania to increase the loan to buy the bullet production line. While Edel was happy about this, he did not know that the Kaiser planned to change a group of military advisors. Chapter 57 Farewell to Ludendorff. Edel introduced 2 bullet production lines to the military factory to strengthen the production capacity of the military factory. Prepare to take part in exercises organized by the military that have been reorganized this year within 2 days. Edel came to Ploiesti to watch the exercises of the 14th Division that had just been reorganized. Chief of General Staff Previn and Chief of Advisors Ludendorff also watched the exercise with the Crown Prince. General Churiaf, your soldiers are well trained. The Chief of the General Staff, who put down his binoculars, said to the commander of the 14th Division, Ploiesti. All of this depends on His Royal Highness's concern for the army and the training plan formulated by the Chief of Staff. We are only training according to the standard. As a senior officer, Ploiesti is not at all flattering. Vague. General Churiaf's training plan. It's not me that you want to thank, but Captain Ludendorff, so you're flattering wrong. Preshan teased that Colonel Ludendorff had told the truth. Chief of the General Staff, this is not my credit alone. You have added many of them. I dare not take this credit alone. Ludendorff did not dare to accept the Chief of Staff's teasing. After all, he is only a consultant, not a high-ranking Romanian army. Well, the two of you can't just flatter each other naked. If the officers below see it, their jaws will drop. Although the Crown Prince stopped their touts, Preshan really admired Ludendorff. After being together for more than 3 years, Preshan was impressed by Ludendorff's shrewd insight and careful design. In the conversation with his friend Prossy, he often talked about Ludendorff's extraordinary staff ability. In the next exercise, it can be seen that General Churiaf, the commander of the 14th Division, still worked hard. Soldiers were well versed in military skills and movements, and junior officers had a thorough understanding of tactics, which was reflected in the drills after the exercise. Edel spoke to Chiryav, the commander of the 14th Division. General Chiryav's ability to train soldiers so well is a reflection of your ability. I like capable people very much, and I hope to perform better in the next exercise. After speaking, he took the initiative to shake hands with him, and Chiryav, who was praised by the Crown Prince, was also very happy in his heart. He knew that he had left a good impression on the Crown Prince, and laid a solid foundation for his future development in the army. Please rest assured, Your Highness, the 14th Division will have outstanding performance in the future. I'll wait and see. General. After inspecting the exercise of the 14th Division, Edel and his party got on the train, and prepared to return to Bucharest. On the train, Ludendorff told the Crown Prince that the German General Staff would transfer them back to the country in batches. As a friend of Ludendorff, I would like to ask if you really want to go back. Edel hoped to be able to make a reservation. His Royal Highness is very grateful for the importance you place on me. It is an honor for me to be a soldier and serve the motherland. Ludendorff and Edel have been together for more than 3 years. Knowing what the Crown Prince wanted to say, he told his decision in advance. Well, I respect your decision. And what you said is right. It is everyone's honor to serve for the motherland. Edel saw it as inviolable and could only have a good relationship with this genius general. Edel looked at Ludendorff and continued. Then notify me when you leave, and I will see you off. Thank you, Your Highness. Back to what the Crown Prince of Bucharest said to the captain of the guard. Let's find out who the next head of the German advisory group is. Okay, Your Highness. Since the head of the advisory group does not need any confidentiality, he can easily find out if he is willing. Within 2 days, Karist put the results on Edel's table and attached a brief biography of him. Colonel Markenk von Stree was born in a small landlord family in East Prussia in 1867 and attended the Junior Military Academy at the age of 13. He later graduated from the Army Non-Commissioned Officer School and enlisted in the army the following year, where he was awarded the rank of second lieutenant. Before coming to Romania, he was the deputy chief of the 3 divisions of the General Staff. He was a typical Junkers aristocratic officer. It seems that the Kaiser really attaches great importance to Romania, the Crown Prince said, after reading the information of Colonel Stree. A week later, the officer who succeeded Ludendorff came to Romania in a 4-story building on Crudor Stras, where the advisory group resides. Ludendorff is hosting a dinner for his colleague. Street didn't expect you to replace me. It's been almost 10 years since we first met. Ludendorff told Stree, who was sitting next to him, about the time the two had known each other. I remember the name I heard the most when I entered the General Staff. Except for General Schlieffen, the chief of the General Staff, it was you, Ludendorff. Colonel Stree talked about the scenery of Ludendorff at that time. General Schlieffen retired shortly after I came to Romania, and this time I want to visit him when I go back to China. Ludendorff recalled that he could do such a good job in the General Staff, and it was inseparable from the then Chief of Staff Schlieffen appreciation. I heard that he is still perfecting the plan after retirement, and I heard that this time he plans to add car transportation. Stree whispered to Ludendorff, because he knew that Ludendorff had helped Schlieffen perfect his plan many times. When I have time, I will help him improve the plan. In Romania, there is a fast mobile division equipped with 800 trucks. During the exercise, this division was twice as fast as the ordinary division. At this point, the Romanians walked ahead of us. Ludendorff talked about the current situation of the Romanian army. I heard that the current chief of staff, General Malki, is also adding trucks to the army as a means of transportation in the country. Stree said about the current chief of staff General Malki's actions. The newly appointed General Moki is also very interested in new things, but the price of trucks is too expensive now, and now he can only purchase a small amount for logistics transportation. The 2 acquaintances sat together happily talking about the information of the past few years. Ludendorff also told Stree about his experience in Romania. In the Romanian army, the Crown Prince Edel and the Chief of the General Staff, General Presson, are the people you must befriend. You need to pay attention to the Romanian army, the commander of the guard division Blungat, and the principal of the military school, Prosy. Thank you, Ludendorff, Stree said gratefully to Ludendorff, who knew that this information could help him do his work better. You're welcome. Point. After spending 2 days handing over the work at hand, Ludendorff was preparing to take the train back to Berlin this morning. On the platform, many officers of the advisory group came to see him off. At this time, some people saw Prezhan and the Crown Prince also leaving. Coming. Point. Ludendorff, General Prezhan and I are very grateful for what you have done for Romania. This gift is a little bit of our heart. Edel walked up to Ludendorff and said, taking it from the captain of the guard. A small box was handed to Ludendorff. Thank you, Your Highness and the Chief of Staff for coming to see me. Ludendorff said his words of thanks. After taking the small box. Ludendorff, open it and take a look. General Prezhan suggested to Ludendorff. Ludendorff opened the small box given by the Crown Prince and found that it was a medal, which Ludendorff knew. This is Romania's gold knighthood, which is only awarded to Romania's own soldiers. In the past 3 years, Ludendorff has seen 3 silver knighthoods, but never once 4 gold. Is this too heavy, Your Highness? Ludendorff felt a little heavy. This is what you deserve, and the Crown Prince, and I have the most say on this point. General Prezhan said to Ludendorff. Thank you to the Crown Prince and the General for their attention to me. Ludendorff is not a hesitant person. Besides, any soldier who does not value the medal will soon put it away. Just then, the train made a whining sound. The Crown Prince told Ludendorff, it's almost time to get in the car, and may you do better in Germany. Ludendorff boarded the train at the reminder of the Crown Prince. The Crown Prince and Prezhan waved to Ludendorff, who was standing at the window of the car, and watched the train slowly start, driving farther and farther, until they were out of sight. Chapter 58 The New Schlieffen Project. After seeing off Ludendorff, the Crown Prince and Prezhan went back, and there was still a lot of work waiting for them. Ludendorff finally arrived in Berlin after almost 2 days of train rides. Looking out the window at the familiar and unfamiliar place, Ludendorff was also melancholy. When he got off the train, a young officer in his 20s walked in front of him and saluted. Colonel Ludendorff, I'm Second Lieutenant Mandrill of the General Staff, and have been ordered to meet you. Thank you, Second Lieutenant. After speaking, Ludendorff followed Lieutenant Mandrill out of the station, and the second lieutenant pointed to the Model T parked on the side of the road. Let's go by car, Lieutenant Mandrill told Ludendorff, after putting away his luggage. Colonel, I'll arrange for you to stay first. Tomorrow morning, His Excellency Malki, Chief of the General Staff, will meet you to learn about the military situation in Romania. The next day at the German General Staff, Ludendorff stood in front of the Chief of the General Staff, Moch, and reported on his work. Colonel Ludendorff, you are an advisor to the Romanian army. Can you rate its military situation? Okay, Your Excellency Chief of the General Staff. When I first arrived in Romania, its military personnel were bloated, the senior officers were severely corrupted, the lower level officers had poor tactical understanding, and many of them had a low level of education, and could not even recognize military orders. The morale of the soldiers is not bad, but the lack of training has led to the poor overall combat effectiveness of the army. We can fight with one division, and there were 2 Romanian divisions before the reorganization. After Ludendorff introduced the state of the Romanian army before the complete compilation, he paused and continued. During the reorganization in Romania, we have increased the amount of soldier training. The junior officers have been relearned mainly at the Bucharest Military Academy, and the senior officers have also been retrained. After 3 years of reorganization, they now have our 9-tier organization in terms of military personnel. It is not worse than us in equipment. Generally speaking, the troops that have been reorganized now can compete with us one-on-one at the division level. I personally think that their large-scale reorganization of the army now has the idea of war. Although Ludendorff and Edel are friends, and they are not influenced by their feelings, they still tell the Chief of Staff what they see and tell their opinions. General Moch, who heard Ludendorff's story, was also thinking about Romania's plans. From the German perspective, it is of course hoped that Romania will join the war against Russia in the future. It's just that Romania has not yet been fully drawn into the chariot. An elite army is placed on the front line of Bessarabia in Russia, which is also a kind of protection for East Prussia and Austria-Hungary. Now Romania's plans. Iana Maiochi guessed that the only people he can make decisions around Romania are Serbia and Bulgaria. Considering the dispute between Romania and Bulgaria over the Dobroga region, Ziana Maiochi has his own answer. Thank you very much for your analysis of the Romanian army, Colonel Ludendorff. Marloch told Ludendorff. It is an honor for every German to serve the empire. Facing the thanks of the chief of staff, Ludendorff leaned on his legs and answered without hesitation. This time, when you return to China, I plan to arrange you to be the director of the 2nd Division of the General Staff. What do you think? I don't have any problems at all. I feel honored to be able to work under the chief of staff. Faced with the questioning of Ziana Maiochi, how could Ludendorff refuse? And the 2nd Division of the General Staff is in charge of marching work, which is more suitable his appetite. Little Mooch was very satisfied with Ludendorff. He had read the information before. He also gained a deep understanding of Ludendorff's ability to work in Romania. You just came back to rest for a week and see if your family is coming to work. Little Maiochi was still very understanding and gave Ludendorff a holiday. Ludendorff left the general staff after getting the leave approved by Mooch and drove to the retired Schlieffen's house. General Schlieffen, who is concentrating on his own plans, at the butler's prompt, he stood up and walked to Ludendorff. It's Ludendorff. I haven't seen you for a long time. How are you doing in Romania? Thank you, Your Excellency General, for your concern for me. I have a good time in Romania. Now the Chief of the General Staff, General Muki, has transferred me to the 2nd Division. I can help you continue to complete the plan. Ludendorff introduced General Schlieffen's own status also. All kinds of new things appear now, all affecting this plan. I'm too old, and I don't have enough energy. Ludendorff, you can help me. I'm very grateful to you. Schlieffen expressed his gratitude to his former subordinates. You're welcome, General. Ludendorff told Schlieffen about the changes he had seen in the Romanian army, with a focus on Romania's fast-moving divisions. Schlieffen pondered when he heard that this division with 800 cars could maneuver twice as much as a normal division without relying on railroads. This is a new trend. The advantage of being twice as fast as others can give the military more options, but it will give the government another headache in terms of military spending. Yes, I calculated in Romania that if you want to improve logistics, you need at least 300 more cars per division to work. It's not a small expense, and it can only improve logistics. Plus personnel training, daily maintenance of roads. Generally speaking, car transportation can only be supplemented by train transportation. Ludendorff said the results of his own calculations. This is also the limitation of technology in this era. After Edel has produced Dongfeng trucks, the main force of transportation is still trains. At present, a train can transport nearly 1,000 tons, and a truck can transport only 1.5 tons. It takes more than 600 trucks to achieve the transportation capacity of a train, which is a big problem in terms of cost. The truck is still a lot better than the horse-drawn carriage. It can supplement the distance from the train to the troops, but it doesn't cost a small amount of money. Schlieffen sees the problem very thoroughly, but now the stock of horses in Germany is a very large number. Don't say that. He is just a retired chief of staff, and even the current Little Maiochi does not dare to replace all short distance transportation with trucks, which involves a lot of problems, but it can still be done by equipping the vanguard with enough trucks for transportation. Schlieffen muttered silently. In his plan, the maneuvering speed of the rotating attacking troops had always been the topic of his greatest concern. Now that there are better short-distance means of transportation than horse-drawn carriages, it is no wonder that he will be obsessed with it. Your Excellency, we can actually make a plan first, and whether it can be implemented or not depends on the decision of the General Staff. Ludendorff told Schlieffen about his plan. I really need your help this time, Ludendorff. Finally, with the joint efforts of Schlieffen and Ludendorff, a more reasonable Schlieffen plan was released. There is no change to the troops in this plan, except that trucks are used on a large scale in the deterring troops on the Western Front. According to the new plan, the deterring troops are equipped with different trucks according to different positions. The follow-up troops to follow also have at least 300 trucks. According to the new plan, the entire 53 divisions of the Securitas Force are equipped with 23,000 trucks. Chapter 59, the new target of the public. While Ludendorff helped Schlieffen continue to refine his plan, Edel in Romania was also preparing to add to the tragic Battle of World War I at the Royal Palace in Bucharest. The Volkswagen Big Four are also waiting for the Crown Prince's summons. Now Volkswagen is a dominant presence in the European car market. 90% of the trucks and passenger cars use Volkswagen products. In the private car market, the European counterparts who beat the T-type car cannot find the North. Now Volkswagen is synonymous with the European automotive industry. Francisco, do you think His Highness called us this time to expand production? De la Spar asked the sales manager. As a production manager, De la Spar is most concerned about whether the equipment and workers can meet the production needs. Drasper, don't talk nonsense in the palace. General Manager Minoba scolded the reckless guy. In the face of reprimands from his boss, Drasper also realized that something was wrong. After reprimanding the production manager, Minoba turned to Tuslade, the R/U0026D director who had been sitting in a daze. Hi, Tuslade. Do you think the Crown Prince summoned us and asked us to develop a new model? It should be, otherwise why would you summon me? The R/U0026D director briefly gave his answer as the general manager of Volkswagen. Minoba still has a certain understanding of the Crown Prince. He also sees the current form of Volkswagen very clearly. Now the great development of the auto industry triggered by Volkswagen and Ford has aroused great interest from capital. In France, Renault Motors has received a large amount of capital investment, and the two major German car companies have also received capital injections from the banking industry. As the largest and most advanced car company in Europe, Volkswagen has also become a target of many inspirational people who want to become bigger in the auto industry. Now the most direct way for many auto companies is to poach corners. As the general manager, Minoba not only has to worry about the company the subordinates were dug up, and even he himself received many letters wishing him to join, and he also promised to give him a lot of shares, which made Minoba dumbfounded. Just when a few people were discussing the purpose of the Crown Prince summoning them, a guard came over and said to them, "Your Highness invites you in." Several people stopped talking after sorting out their appearance. Minoba led a group of people to meet the Crown Prince. In the aisle, they met the Minister of Industry Caraccioli, who had only met the Crown Prince. Edel kept his promise to transfer this capable former mayor of Ploiesti to the position in charge of industrial development. In the face of the ministers who can influence their enterprises, they are also polite to give way and say hello. I have seen Your Excellency Minister of Industry. It's Minoba. His Highness is waiting for you to enter quickly. Caraccioli also said to them with a look of spring breeze, and walked out without stopping. A group of people walked into the Crown Prince's office and saw Edel, who was waiting for them. Led by Minoba, everyone saluted the Crown Prince and said, "I have seen Your Highness. Minoba called you here this time, mainly to commend you for your excellent management of Volkswagen. I decided to reward you with 5% of the company's dividends. Minoba 2% and the other 3 each with 1%. Edel said, "Very much speak directly." Edel also notes that he has been poached. Since Volkswagen launched the Model T, other mid and low level managers Edel may not care, but Edel still cares about these 4 elites who have led the public to the current situation. After just a few months of testing, they all showed enough loyalty to the Volkswagen company to reward them for their loyalty. Thank you, Your Highness. The 4 said excitedly. As managers of Volkswagen, no one knows better than them. According to the excellent performance of Volkswagen, 1% of the dividends are more than £10,000. So what's not to be dissatisfied with as additional income? Edel saw the 4 people who were very excited, and now it's time to put pressure on the sweet dates. Now VW needs to redesign a 3 to 5 ton heavy duty truck. It is required to be simple to operate, easy to maintain, and able to adapt to complex terrain. It would be better if the failure rate could be reduced. It is best to design a truck with a load of 5 tons, or it is not possible to design it to a load of 3 tons. The 4 of them were a little startled when they heard the request of the Crown Prince. This requirement, which belonged to the main transport vehicles in World War II, scared the elites of the public a bit. Sure enough, the money of the Crown Prince was not easy to get. Is His Highness's request a bit high? Taslid, the head of research and development, knew that only he could answer the Crown Prince's request at this time. Is it enough time for me to give you 4 years? Edel said to Taslid in the face of the Crown Prince's questioning. R/U0026D director Taslid repeatedly calculated in his mind and said it. After thinking for a while, I can try it in 4 years, and the price won't be too cheap. Okay, I'll celebrate for you in advance. Edel blocked their retreat. After walking out of the Crown Prince's office again, the 3 asked R/U0026D director Taslid, you really have a way. This can't be a joke. As the top executives of Volkswagen, they all have a high understanding of the current auto industry, and they are also aware of the emergence of new technologies. Edel's request can be said to be difficult, and they have no reason not to worry. Don't worry, if I don't have that ability, I will never agree. Increasing the load capacity is nothing more than enhancing the structure of the vehicle, increasing the power output of the engine, and adapting to complex terrain can increase the force area between the car and the ground, which means increasing the tires. Easy to operate. We have Dongfeng motor as a reference. Easy maintenance is a troublesome problem, but it should be solved in 4 years. Everyone heard what Taslid said, and they believed that he could do it. In his heart, the technical director knew that things were not as easy as they said, so he could only go back to work overtime for research and development. After returning to the Volkswagen factory in Constanta, the crowd was scattered about their own business. Taslid returned to the R/U0026D center, summoned the researchers, and told them the Crown Prince's request. After hearing such a high request from the Crown Prince, there was a lot of discussion. Taslid didn't look like it, and shouted loudly to the people below. Okay, don't talk anymore. The task has been set. We just need to do as required. After seeing the quiet personnel, Stualid also arranged tasks for his subordinates. Bisaya, you lead your group to study the steel frame structure of the vehicle. I hope your structure can withstand a load of 10 tons. Okay, I will focus on this in the next time. The group leader named Bisaya replied. Stualid, who was answered, went on to arrange work for others. Tuchel, you lead your group to do the tire bearing test and also use 10 tons of bearing capacity to see how much area is needed to prevent it from sinking into the ground. Stualid successively arranged the research directions of other people. In these directions, it can be seen that he used 10 tons as the overall vehicle and load, which is quite reasonable in this era. After allocating people one by one, he walked up to an oriental face and spoke. Super King, now you are my assistant and report the progress of their team to me every day. I need to master the precise progress in order to achieve the desired results within the stipulated time. Good supervisor. The young man named Wang Cheoqiang replied. As an international student at his own expense, Wang Cheoqiang still has some financial resources in his hometown in Hanyang, and he was admitted to the Technical University of Berlin because of his eagerness to learn. He became acquainted with cars while studying at the Technical University of Berlin. He had completed his studies, but like everyone else, he planned to return to China to serve the motherland after completing his studies. However, the great development of automobiles that appeared in advance made him see the huge potential of an emerging industry. He resolutely refused to return to China immediately, intending to go back to help his suffering motherland. After learning technology in Europe's largest car factory, his high enough education helped him to enter the Volkswagen R/U0026D department smoothly, and he happened to meet a good leader who did not discriminate against him. In the R/U0026D center, Taslid only cares about your ability and never asks who you are. This made Wang Cheoqiang very grateful to his supervisor, and he was very happy that he could learn the most advanced automotive technology. Just as the public was busy with Edel's request, the Crown Prince also turned his attention to the surrounding hotspots. Chapter 60 Crisis. After Edel arranged for Volkswagen to develop new models, Austria-Hungary finally couldn't stand the two countries that had been secretly working on the Bosnia and Herzegovina issue. With the support of Germany, Austria-Hungary will announce a semi-mobilization in early March. At the same time, Germany also issued a threatening note to Russia, announcing that Russia must recognize Austria-Hungary's sovereignty over Bosnia and Herzegovina. If Russia continues to support Serbia's dispute over Bosnia and Herzegovina, then Germany and Austria will take military action against Russia. While Edel was watching a play, a telegram from Germany pulled him into this crisis. His Royal Highness, Your Majesty, please come over. Edel was working on this day. Director Adri came over and told the Crown Prince that the king had something to do with him. When Edel heard it, he thought to himself that there was nothing major that could alarm his father recently. In the past 2 years, Caroline handed over most of the work to Edel in order to train the Crown Prince. Now the king has rarely been involved in political affairs except for major affairs. This time his father's invitation naturally made Edel think that there is something else going on in the country. After thinking for a moment that nothing happened, Edel asked, who's with my father now? The German ambassador, Baslab, is with his majesty. After hearing the chief executive's remarks, Edel thought to himself whether it was because of the crisis in Bosnia and Herzegovina that he sought our diplomatic support. The Crown Prince didn't think much, walked to the room of the old King Carol, and saw that there were only his father and the German ambassador in the room, and even the director Adri closed the door after the Crown Prince entered the room. Father, do you have something to do with me? Although Edel was puzzled, he asked the old king first. Edel has one thing now, and I think I need to ask your opinion. Caroline said. Father, please tell me, I will think about it seriously. The Crown Prince saw that this was not a simple matter, so he should listen to it first. Unexpectedly, the next person to talk about this was the German ambassador, Baslöber. His Royal Highness, in order to ensure the accuracy of this matter, let me tell the Crown Prince. Seeing that the old king had no objection, Edel signaled to let Baslöber continue. This time I came here hoping to get your country's support for the Bosnian issue. Your Highness should know about the relationship between our Germany and Austria-Hungary. This time I sent an ultimatum to Russia because they were too unscrupulous in the Balkans. This is very unbearable for those who love peace. Edel asked after hearing the remarks from the ambassador, Baslab. What kind of support do you need? In the face of the Crown Prince's interrupted questioning, the ambassador was not annoyed and continued to speak. We hope that, when Russia is obsessed, Romania can join us in punishing Russia, and in return we can forgive your country's debts. At the same time, we believe that the people of Moldavia have the right to choose the country they like. Edel heard this, and basically knew what Germany meant. If Germany and Austria-Hungary declared war on Russia now, and Romania joined, Germany could forgive the debt of more than 200 million marks, and distribute it to the Romanian Moldavia region, because most of the local are all Latin-speaking Romanians. After hearing this amazing news, Edel did not respond immediately, and the old king and Ambassador Baslöb did not immediately ask, and were all waiting for the Crown Prince's reply. When he carefully recalled that there was no war between Germany and Russia before World War I, how could Romania be involved this time? In fact, this Bosnia-Herzegovina crisis in history has nothing to do with Romania at all. It was Edel himself who was implicated in Romania this time. After borrowing heavily from Germany, Germany believed that Romania was about to fall to the Allies. In addition, after returning home, Ludendorff told Zaomeoki the strength of the Romanian army. In this Bosnia and Herzegovina crisis, the Kaiser also wants to see if Romania is really willing to follow in Germany's footsteps. That's why the move to win over Romania for military action. Mr. Ambassador, can you give us 2 days first? This matter is too big, and we need to discuss it. The Crown Prince can only delay for a while now. Things are too sudden, and need to be relieved to sort out his thoughts. Alright then, Your Highness, I'll come back in 2 days. Ambassador Baslöb did not think that Romania would agree immediately. 2 days of discussing such a major matter is fast enough. The old king asked Edel, after seeing the German ambassador, Baslöb, going out. Edel is now facing a German request. What should we do? My father asked me to think about it first. I don't dare to make a decision lightly on such a big thing. After the Crown Prince returned to his office, he asked people not to disturb him. In a quiet environment, Edel carefully analyzed the impact of the crisis on Romania. Now the Kaiser's request to participate in the war is a headache for Edel, although in the memory of his previous life, the war broke out in 1914. But nothing is absolute. In case Nicholas II of this world knocks his head and rejects the demands of Germany and Austria, France will not let Russia face Germany and Austria alone, so that Germany and Austria declare war on Russia. France declares war on Germany and Austria, and Britain will follow suit, so the war will break out ahead of schedule. This made Edel, who wanted to make a lot of war money in the early stage of the First World War, unacceptable. However, if the Kaiser's request was rejected, the First World War broke out according to the scheduled track. Then it is certain that the withdrawal of German capital is a high probability problem, and the payment for the goods will also be required to be paid off in advance. Now Romania's industrial construction is at a critical juncture, and the reorganization of the army has not been completed, so there is no money to pay off debts. Even selling Edel himself would not be enough to pay off the debt, so this was a dilemma. Now we can only carefully analyze the current situation and choose a choice that is not prone to unexpected situations. Bring me the current information about Russia. Edel called to the guards outside the door. Thanks to the fact that Romania now attaches the most importance to Russian intelligence, after a while the guards came in with a lot of information about Russia. You can go out if you post it on the desk. Don't let anyone disturb me. Edel instructed the guard, after seeing the guard walk out and close the door. Edel picked up all kinds of information about Russia and looked up. In the next time, Edel looked up all kinds of information about Russia's politics, economy, public security and so on. After checking the preliminary, despite the blood transfusion from France, it is judged that the Russian economy has not fully recovered to the state before the Russo-Japanese War, and the war potential is greatly reduced. In this case, the chances of Russia rejecting the demands of Germany and Austria are very small. Even if Tsar Nicholas II refused, he would be dissuaded by the ministers to come back. After all, no one is a fool. After getting the answer, Edel walked out of the room and found that the captain of the guard was waiting for him with a group of guards anxiously outside. Your Highness, you have finally come out. You have been inside for 5 hours. Seeing the Crown Prince opening the door, the captain of the guard, Karist, stepped forward and said with concern, I don't have anything to let them go. I'm a little hungry. When I bring something here, Edel told his chief guard. After eating, Edel came to the office of Karolai and saw the old father, who was also thinking about the same problem. Father, I've thought about it. We can agree to Germany's request this time. Tell me the reason. Karol asked his crown prince with great interest. The reason is very simple. Now the Russian economy has not fully recovered, and there is not enough money to play financially. Politically, the activities of the socialists have not completely subsided, and there are various small riots among the people. These data show that Russia is not yet capable of fighting a major war. After talking about Russia, Edel talked about domestic. Germany has a great influence on us now, and we cannot do without their support both economically and militarily. We are now unable to refuse the Kaiser's request. Karolai pondered. After listening to Edel's analysis, he knew what the crown prince meant. Now Russia does not dare to fight. In addition, Romania needs Germany now, so he can make a speculation. After Karol didn't think of it himself, Edel said, you can do as you say. 2 days later, the German ambassador, Baslober, came to the palace, still in the old king's office, still the same 3 people before. But this time, Edel, who had already made up his mind, told the German ambassador, thanks to Germany's love, if Germany and Austria take military action against Russia in this crisis, Romania is willing to follow in Germany's footsteps and join this action. Chapter 61. The crisis ends. After receiving Edel's reply, the German ambassador quickly sent the Romanian decision back to Berlin in an encrypted message. After hearing that Romania was willing to act with the Allies in this crisis, Kaiser Wilhelm II was very happy to talk to his chief of staff Junior Moltke. I knew the Hohenzollern family was united, and Romania did not disappoint us this time. Yes, Your Majesty, I will ask the staff to make a plan to fight on the Eastern Front after Romania joins the alliance, which can avoid our lack of preparation. Little Malky was also very happy to be able to pull Romania into the chariot. After all, Romania has a very good army and has the food and oil that Germany needs. In addition, the current industry is also good. Volkswagen has the largest automobile production plant in Europe, which can provide Germany with transportation tools. Just when the Kaiser was satisfied with Romania's participation in the military operation, Edel also brought in the chief of the general staff, Ploiesti, and asked him to prepare an emergency plan for the whole army maneuver exercise. His Royal Highness, I don't know what the content of this exercise is. Prezhan asked. The content of this exercise is that Russia suddenly attacked, and our army rushed to the battlefield to prepare to repel the opponent. Edel thought of doing a play and made a full set so that Germany could see Romania's strength. His Royal Highness, I will go back to the staff to prepare for 3 days. We will start the exercise on the 5th day and strive to arrive at the designated location 1 week after the exercise starts. Prezhan also prepared according to the wartime, and he also wanted to see the reorganized army. In the end, what is the whole army maneuvering point? After returning to the general staff, Pravin arranged for his staff to make plans for the exercise overnight. After nearly 3 days of rushing, the plan was finally reported to Pravin. After seeing the staff officer who was about to stand unsteadily in front of him, Pravin ordered the plan to be sent to each division command and asked them to start taking action on the 3rd day. After receiving this order, each unit is divided into divisions and moves forward according to the established goals. After receiving the telegram from the general staff, the various division level headquarters also jumped. Each division is issuing orders for the marching line to its subordinate units. After layer by layer communication, the content of the marching line of each unit in the final exercise is conveyed to the company level. Tall AE, haven't you prepared your luggage yet? Tomorrow you will be marching for 6 consecutive days. In the barracks of the Romanian 3rd Division, De Vasily told Talei, who was in the same village as him. Okay De Vasily, I've known it for a long time. I'm just sad that I can't see Jimmy. Thorol told his friend about his feelings. De Vasily knew a month ago that his friend was dating a girl named Chimina. Every Sunday off, Thorol would go to tryst with the girl. Now the emergency exercise made it impossible for him to do this anymore, which of course made Thorol, who was in love, quite dissatisfied. If you don't prepare again, be careful that squad leader Bilek will beat you up when he sees it. De Vasily warned his friend. Their squad leader Bilek is the best player in the whole company. It doesn't matter. The important thing is that their strong squad leader has always believed in the fist theory. If he doesn't obey, he will beat him with his fist. If he fails to complete the task, he will beat him with his fist. If he makes a mistake, he will beat him with his fist. Even their platoon commander had been beaten by him. If the company commander hadn't liked him very much, he would have been kicked out of the army long ago. Behind the scenes, everyone called him Boom Bear, and the whole class was obediently beaten by him with his fists. It's really a good, and not a bad spirit. As soon as De Vasily's voice fell, Bilek's sturdy body appeared in front of them. Bilek stared at his bare eyes, and found that Thorle was not ready to pack, so he walked over and roared loudly at Thorle. Thorle, why are you not ready yet? I don't know if you are going to leave early tomorrow morning. Are you itchy again? With the roar of this violent bear, saliva was sprayed on Thorle's face, and his legs were shaking with fright. Class squad leader, I will do it right away. Thor stammered to explain to the squad leader. After hearing Thorle's explanation, Bilek smiled at him and walked to his side, reaching out and patting him on the shoulder. I'll give you time. Seeing his squad leader showing this expression next to De Vasily means that someone is going to be unlucky. The next day, Thorle appeared in the parade with a bruised face and a pig's head. A group of soldiers faced the majesty of the violent bear, and they all wanted to laugh and didn't dare to laugh hard. Thorle, are you alright now? Asked De Vasily, a fellow countryman and friend. It was a little sore last night, but it's much better now. Tola's novel responded to De Vasily's concerned inquiry. Okay, now pack your bags and prepare to go. Bilek the Beast told them. A group of people organized their own lines, checked their equipment. Under the leadership of Bilek, they lined up neatly and began to set off to their destination, a small town called Ploiesti outside the city of Icy. Threat notes from Germany have been negotiated in Russia for some time. The reason for the delay in negotiating is that Foreign Minister Izvolsky and the military believe that Germany and Austria's unreasonable requests should be rejected. However, the government department believes that Russia has not fully recovered, and it is still a problem how much courage France has to declare war on Germany and Austria when Russia faces war, so it believes that it should retreat. Nicholas II was not a very decisive person, and he was unable to make up his mind in the face of disputes between the two groups. Now with the passage of time, both sides feel that there can be no more quarrel and a decision must be made as soon as possible. Now they are doing the final negotiation, and the following people cannot follow, because there is no decision point. We can't give up our support for Serbia now. This is a disaster for the empire's influence in the Balkans. Foreign Minister Izvolsky was the first to say, not just for the country, but for himself. We almost went bankrupt in Japan. Now our economy has just eased. Now facing Germany and Austria, our finances will definitely go bankrupt. The Minister of Finance analyzed the impact of a war on Russia from an economic perspective. Do you think the army can win in the White Hair War? Nicholas II asked the army representative, Zelensky. Your Majesty, if war breaks out, we will do our best to protect Russia. Seeing the military's remarks suggesting that it can't be beaten now, Foreign Minister Izvolsky said a little anxiously, we also have an ally, France, who won't just watch us be attacked. But France can't fight for Russia either, said another senior government official. Just when the important ministers were arguing, a young official broke in and handed a telegram to Chancellor Stolypin. Stolypin took a look at the telegram and walked to Nicholas II mentioned before. I just got the news that the Romanians have started military exercises on our adjacent border. I believe this should be some kind of agreement with Germany and Austria. The important ministers who were negotiating were stunned when they heard the sudden news. It was not that they were afraid of Romania, but they did not expect Romania to join the Bosnia and Herzegovina crisis at this time. Now with Romania joining in, Russia is even more at a disadvantage in military comparison. The situation is not good for us now, and I think we need to make concessions. Prime Minister Stolypin expressed his opinion. But we can't give up Serbia because of a small Romania. Foreign Minister Izvolsky was doing his last struggle. The current Romanian army is no different from the German army. The morale is worse. Now Germany and Austria have added 200,000 troops. Now it is obvious that they can't win. Can't you see clearly? Stolypin retorted the foreign minister speech. Okay. Nicholas II signaled that he had made a decision in the dispute between the important officials. As the Tsar's voice fell, everyone quieted down and waited for his decision. Sending a message to Germany, we recognize Austria-Hungary's sovereignty over Bosnia and Herzegovina, and at the same time, will persuade Serbia to exercise restraint on the Bosnian issue. Nicholas II said to the important ministers very unwillingly. After the Tsar had made his decision, the telegram was sent to Germany and Austria, both of whom, in the face of Russia's retreat, saw it as a major victory that would combat Russia's Balkan ambitions in Serbia, faced with Russia's dissuasion of its mobilization to abandon the anti-Austrian war and to stop all anti-Austrian actions. I felt extremely unwilling. In the telegram, Russia also stated its difficulties. Faced with such a situation, Serbia had no choice but to declare that the protest was cancelled, and a crisis that almost led to war has subsided. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelos. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 62 Hoffman. In the royal palace of Bucharest, Romania, since it had decided to speculate, he has paid more attention to the positions of Russia and Serbia. The guards in the palace all know that the crown prince is in a bad mood and tends to be irritable, so everyone is careful in doing things for fear of being reprimanded. Only the captain of the guard, Karist, is still so calm and indifferent. On the 6th day of the Romanian military exercise, the captain of the guard hurried down the aisle. Those who are familiar with him know that something big must happen to make the captain of the bodyguard, who shows a calm and indifferent face, so eager. His Royal Highness, this is Russia's latest statement. After rushing into the crown prince's office, the captain of the guard Karist told Edel, who was anxiously waiting. Show it to me. Edel walked towards him, stepped forward and took the telegram from the captain of the bodyguard and read it point after carefully reading the telegram in the captain's hand. Edel sighed inwardly and relaxed. After finishing his clothes and recovering, he told his captain of the bodyguard point, I know Karist, so those guards don't have to be so careful, and I don't eat people point. Okay, your highness, I'll tell them. The captain of the guard said happily when he saw the crown prince recovering. Facing the recent state of the crown prince, the chief guard could only try his best to arrange smart guards to stand guard, so as not to make Edel angry. Point after the captain of the guards went out, Edel took the telegram and walked briskly to Caroline's room, asking his father to share the good news. After stopping the chief steward, Viscount Adri, from wanting to announce, the crown prince walked into his father's room. Point, is Edel you? Caroline asked without looking up after hearing the footsteps. Yes father, it seems that Russia has given in. Edel could guess the result in a single sentence because of the old fox who had been able to control Romania steadily for so many years. Father seems to be so shrewd, he can't hide anything from you. Edel also found a stool at random and sat down. Point, there is no one who can hide from me in Romania. The old king put down the pen in his hand, rubbed the bridge of his nose, and continued to Edel with a smile. Now that I'm older, I don't have enough energy. If I could go back 10 years, I could work 4 days on end. Point, in my heart, my father is still so energetic, and nothing can stop you. Edel said, thinking of his father who could work for several days when he was a child. Now the father is older than before, and his hair is grey, but he still feels so majestic and inviolable to Edel. Point, it is impossible for Serbia to persist after Russia has retreated. But the contradiction is intensifying. I wonder if we will have such luck next time. After a simple chat of family affection, King Caroline restored the one country relationship. Your old point, now we can't do without the help of Germany, and we can only hope that we won't be so passive next time. Edel also has lingering fears about this crisis. Before, he thought he knew the historical results, and there was always a sense of superiority in his heart. This time, the German emperor gave him a lesson and let him know that none of them can leave a name in history. Point, after a few more conversations with his father, Edel left Carol's room. Now the crisis is basically lifted, but the exercise must continue, and the crown prince is also very interested in the results of this exercise. Point, at the general staff, Edel sat with the chief of staff, listened to his staff, a summary report on the problems that have been exposed during this exercise. Point, during this emergency exercise, we found a lot of problems. First of all, our own problems. We did not make reasonable arrangements for the use of transportation, so that the 6th Division could not make arrangements in time because of transportation. I waited for 6 hours in Mokshnadu. Fortunately, the 6th Division made arrangements in time to arrive at the destination in time. Point, after talking about the staff's own responsibility, the staff officers started talking about the mobile unit. Point, there are also many problems in the mobile unit of the exercise. The most important one is the problem of falling behind. Many soldiers are left behind for various reasons. Although each division has organized a follow-up containment team, there are still many soldiers who cannot find it. Some of my own troops even went to other divisions. There were also incidents of disturbing the people. During the march, there were many cases of forcibly requisitioning civilian vehicles in order to speed up the march or reduce the pain of the march. There have been several complaints. There were also incidents where officers misread the map and went elsewhere. Edel can understand the various problems of this exercise. Before, the army was to lack of exercise. Although it has been gradually improved in recent years, small problems still exist in the army. Rome wasn't built in a day either. It takes a process. As long as he insists on believing that it will gradually improve, Edel can also afford to wait. However, it is necessary to put a little pressure on the military in order to better spur them to work harder. The Crown Prince still understands this very well. Point, more training is needed, Edel said to the Chief of Staff, Prezhan, who was sitting beside him. Point, after hearing the Crown Prince's dissatisfaction, Prezhan replied with a serious expression. I will criticize them after the exercise. Point, don't be so serious, Chief of the General Staff. I believe the officers below are more anxious than you. Edel continued to talk after comforting his confidant. In fact, this kind of exercise is very good. It can improve our reaction speed in the face of war. I will do more exercises like this in the future, so that they can better adapt to this wartime environment. The chief of staff made his own suggestion after knowing that Edel did not intend to pursue these issues. It's a good idea. Point. After listening to the exercise report, the crown prince left the general staff. Point. Don't go back to the palace. Go to the military academy. Edel, who was sitting in the car, looked at the sunny street, thinking that he hadn't been to the military academy for a long time, and instructed the driver following Edel's orders. The crown prince's motorcade turned around and drove towards the Romanian military academy located in the suburbs. The vehicle came to the gate of the military academy, and Edel asked the guards to come forward to report. In a few minutes, I saw the principal Prosi rushing over with several senior officers of the military academy. Point. I have seen His Highness. Seeing a group of people salute him steamingly, it seems that the crown prince's raid was a success. Hello headmaster Prosi. I hope I didn't disturb you. Edel greeted the headmaster of the military academy. Point. It's our honor to have His Highness here. How could it be disturbing? As a friend of Prezhan, Prosi still knows Edel relatively well, and said after greeting the crown prince, "Please come inside, Your Highness." Edel walked into the campus under the leadership of Principal Prosi. As he walked through the playground, looking at the young military cadets undergoing military training, Edel asked Prosi, who was walking behind him. Point. How about these students? This batch of students has only been recruited for less than 3 months, and they are considered very good in the past few years. Most of them have a good cultural foundation, and many people have a clear understanding of tactics. It is estimated that either I have read books on this aspect before, or I have been taught by my family. I believe there will be a few good seedlings. Hearing Principal Prosi's slightly proud compliment of these students, Edel was also a little interested, and for a while, he had a bad taste in his heart, and stood by to watch. After all, they have only been in the military academy for 3 months. These students saw that a group of big men who could control their own future in the military academy accompanied a young man in his 20s to watch their military training. It is inevitable that I'm nervous, and some smart guesses have already guessed the identity of this young man. For a time, I was nervous, excited, and wanted to perform. All kinds of thoughts came to my mind, and the uniformed team made waves. The instructor who led the team also secretly became anxious. After the Q made several mistakes in a row, beads of sweat climbed onto the instructor's forehead. Looking at the instructor who wanted to be angry, but didn't dare to be angry, made Edel secretly laugh in his heart. Knowing that he can't watch anymore, or it will ruin his training today, Edel left the playground, and took away all the thoughts of the students. Today I want to let you know the consequences of not serious training. Point. Edel heard a shout from the playground. After walking a distance, it seems that these students are suffering, and a group of school seniors can only feel helpless to the crown prince's bad taste in their hearts. Edel, who was in a happy mood, inspected the various facilities of the school under the leadership of Principal Prosi. The classroom, the armory room, the canteen, the auditorium, etc. all left the figure of the crown prince. When he walked to the wargame room, Edel heard the sound of disputes coming from inside. Point. Teacher Hoffman, your infantry is moving too fast on the plain. Even our fast maneuvering divisions don't have the speed you said, and I won't believe that in 20 years they will be able to achieve the maneuvering you require. Sex. Point. A rude voice sounded in the wargame room, and Edel's group outside could hear it clearly, and they could see the intensity of the dispute, which aroused Edel's interest, and signaled everyone to stand outside the house. Interrupt this quarrel. Point. Instructor Ixiver, we said before the game that everything is based on 20 years, and I think my conclusion is reasonable. Now that technology is changing with each passing day, you should see airplanes and trucks appearing in the past few years. Yes, we have reason to believe that in 20 years, the military division level will be able to reach a speed of 80 kilometers. It should be the Hoffman instructor explaining his reasons. Teacher Hoffman needs to know that the army marched at a speed of 20 kilometers 20 years ago, and now it is only more than 30 kilometers. This is still a march. It takes less than a day to attack a line of defense in your game. This is the most incomprehensible to me. Yes, you must know that the current form is the defense has an advantage. I personally think your reasoning is unrealistic. It was still the voice of doubt from the Rixiver instructor in my understanding. The gradually developed cars still have great potential. With the development of the times, it is entirely possible that more than 10 tons of cars will appear in the future, and we can completely put on armor and add machine guns and artillery to form a modern heavy cavalry. Can you imagine that the current defense means can resist such a heavy cavalry attack? After a slight pause, Teacher Hoffman's voice continued. And now the aircraft can provide the army with an efficient means of reconnaissance, which the army can't resist. It can quickly find the weak point of the enemy's defense line, launch an attack when the opponent has not reacted, and tear it apart quickly. The line of defense is advancing in depth. Maybe we can attack the ground from the sky in the future. After hearing this, Edel planned to open the door and go in to have a look. He could think of mechanized geniuses an era ahead of schedule. But there is a disadvantage of the car that you can't avoid. It can only be driven on the road. How do you plan to solve this? At this time, the voice of doubt sounded again, and Edel planned to listen to what this teacher named Hoffman could have. Method. It's really a problem now, but I think we can find a way from agricultural machinery. I saw steam in order to use it in farmland. Some have huge wheels, and some are equipped with crawlers. In fact, we can also use it on cars. Use this method. It seems that this Hoffman also has a deep understanding of the feasibility of his own ideas. Edel heard that he had almost understood his thoughts, so he pushed open the door of the wargame room and walked in. When I saw the two people who were arguing, one was taller, dressed casually, with messy Zanzi hair and a beard, and the other was average, neatly dressed, and meticulously groomed with blonde hair. The Germans in the regiment are not bad. The footsteps of a group of people pushing the door and entering awakened the two who were discussing intensely. Seeing a group of school seniors escorting a young man in his 20s in, the two hurried forward. Prossy saw that the two were a little helpless, and knowing that the Crown Prince was interested in what they had just talked about, he stepped forward and introduced it. This is Faculty Rixiver, Faculty Hoffman. Under the introduction of Principal Prossy, Edel knew that the tall man was Rixiver, and the one who behaved more like a German was Hoffman, who was more interested in him. After Principal Prossy introduced the two, he briefly paused to speak to them. This is His Royal Highness Crown Prince Edel. After the introduction by Principal Prossy, the two saluted nervously. I have seen His Royal Highness the Crown Prince. You're welcome. Edel continued to them with a smile after the gesture. Your discussion before was very exciting, which opened my eyes. Can you talk about how you thought of doing such a deduction at that time? Good sir. As the two of them talked, it turned out that they were bored without class today. Rixiver proposed a tactical deduction. Hoffman happened to be studying the model of future warfare, so he proposed to take 20 years as the standard. And then that's what Edel heard, and the two were at odds over the standard. Hear what Edel told Hoffman. I'm more interested in your previous remarks, and I hope to continue to hear your wonderful speech next time. Okay, Your Highness, I will continue to improve my ideas, hoping to satisfy His Highness. After getting Hoffman's reply, Edel didn't stop there, and wasn't interested in going on. Under the leadership of Prossy, he returned to the gate of the campus, and after getting in the car, he instructed the guards beside him. Get to know the teacher named Hoffman. I want to see his profile. The day after returning to the palace, Edel got details of this genius idea. Heinz von Hoffmann is his full name. He was born in Craiova, northwestern Romania in 1880. He is a German from Romania and his family is a Romanian baron. Graduated from the staff department of the military school in Berlin, Germany, and later served in the German army for a period of time. During his time in Germany, he was rejected by his colleagues because of his too advanced theories. Feeling that he had no future in the German army, he returned to Romania and was assigned to teach at the military academy. Edel said to himself, after reading the document, if you weren't lucky enough to meet me, you would probably teach for a lifetime. When Edel became interested in the Hoffman, the telegram that Serbia finally capitulated was reported to the Crown Prince. Excellent Lolican. Your custom dragon set has been written for you, and it is still a faceless character. Don't you want to console the hard-working steamed bun? Chapter 63 Black Hand Club. Edel sat in a chair, watching Serbia's message in his hand, recognizing Austria-Hungary's sovereignty over Bosnia and Herzegovina, and said sincerely to his captain of the bodyguard, "Karest has worked hard for you." This sentence made the head guard feel that all the hard work was worth it. Edel saw Karest's recent actions in his eyes, and knew that his chief guard had arranged for a guard to wait in the telegraph room during this time, so that he could get news as soon as possible. Now that the crisis facing Romania is over, and he is not a ruthless person, he deserves a well-deserved thank you to the captain of the guard. Your Highness, you are too polite. I just do my duty and it's not hard work. Karest, who has always been calm and indifferent, his voice is a little unpleasant. As someone close to the crown prince, he knows Edel too well, and there are no more than 5 people in Romania who can hear the crown prince speak in such a tone. Why didn't this move him? As the second son of a small nobleman, Karest can now be said to have done it flawlessly. Edel, who was implicated in the Bosnia and Herzegovina crisis because of a move by the Kaiser, can finally relax. Now it is necessary to continue to build Romania and strengthen its own strength. If this kind of scene is repeated several times, the crown prince himself feels that he will be overwhelmed. This is also the helplessness of small countries. These godamordres are always trying to invade our territory. We can't go on like this. We must let them taste the wrath of the Serbs. Dimitrijevic, who is in charge of intelligence work at the Serbian Army General Staff, Colonel Key, in his office, told his friend and companion Lieutenant Colonel Miksevic about his determination. After Serbia was forced to issue a statement to give up the Bosnia and Herzegovina region, the one who was most dissatisfied with this situation was Colonel Dimitrijevic, who was the head of Serbian intelligence at the time. He was an ardent greater Serb who believed that all Serbs should live in one country, and was identified by many Serbs during the nationalist explosion of the early 20th century. That's one way, but where to start? Lieutenant Colonel Kurcevic can be a good friend of Colonel Dimitrijevic, and he is not a timid person. Before that, he participated in his friend's coup d'etat to overthrow the pro-Austrian king in 1903, and personally killed the former King Obrenović and his queen. In 1903, Colonel Dimitrijevic led a group of nationalist officers who raided the Belgrade royal palace and killed King Alexander Obrenović and his new Liwat queen because the king fell to Austria-Hungary, Serbia's interests. At that time, the Serbian government opened its market to Austria-Hungary in exchange for the protection of the Austria-Hungary Empire. Faced with a question from his friend, Colonel Dimitrijevic preached, while walking back and forth, "We recruited and trained our people in Bosnia, and caused unrest when we returned." When he said this, he found a big loophole. If the people who returned after training were caught by Austria-Hungary, it was very likely to confess them. This is not because Dimitrijevic is afraid of death, but because he does not want to cause trouble for Serbia. Now Austria-Hungary's ambitions for Serbia prevent him from taking such a risk. Keswick, who watched his friend circle in front of him, suggested, "We can use civil society as a cover. Austro-Hungary is not a fool. They can find it." As a senior intelligence chief, Dimitrijevic still knew the intelligence level of Austria-Hungary. We need to do something, otherwise the local people will not be supported by us, and will be pulled away by Austria-Hungary. The same fanatic, Keswick, expressed his concerns. The more critical the time, the more impatient you can't be. Keswick, you are impatient. Colonel Dimitrijevic warned his friend. Then we will pray to God and wait for the Austro-Hungarians in Bosnia to have an accident, but unfortunately God can't hear him. Keswick knew that he was impatient. He still justified himself. The speaker was unintentional and the listener was intentional. Faced with Keswick's unintentional words, Colonel Dimitrijevic stopped and calculated in his heart. Seeing his friend's sudden action, Keswick didn't dare to disturb his thoughts, and even tried to breathe as slowly as possible. Looking at Dimitri with anticipation in his eyes, Dimitrijevic, who was expected by his friends, was calculating in his mind. It takes a big event for the people of Bosnia to remember. Riots are too easy to be caught and can't be used. If you want to hide, you need to have fewer people, and the killing of a governor or high-ranking official is a big event. So assassination, a method of small investment and big return, entered the eyes of Dimitrijevic. This is indeed the method that best suits his ideas. It means that there are few people and concealment. The assassination of high-ranking officials has a great impact, and it is easy to shirk the accusation. If you want to keep secrets, you can scrutinize the personnel more strictly. It was indeed the best way at that time, and it was well understood in Russia and the Qing dynasty. Alexeyevich, I figured out a way. Dmitrievich said to his friend with a smile. Yes, we can form an organization with assassination as the main goal. Dmitrievich whispered his thoughts to his friends. This is indeed the most suitable method for our current situation. It can show the resistance of the Bosnians in the country, arouse the national complex of the people, and slow down Austria-Hungary's control of the local area. Most importantly, it is safe and concealed. Vicky was not stupid either, and after thinking about it, he immediately spoke of the benefits of doing so. Dmitrievich also expressed the frustration of doing so. Yes. Now that Austria-Hungary has an ex-Bosnia and Herzegovina, anyone who has eyes can see their threat to Serbia. Only by arousing the indignation of the Chinese people against Austria-Hungary can we withstand their threat. For my motherland, even sacrifice, I'm at the mercy of myself. In this office, Dmitrievich and his friend Keswich discussed the newly established organizational structure and personnel recruitment. In the end, it was decided that the newly established organization was named Black Hand Society, and with the goal of unification of the Serbian region, the recruitment of personnel was voluntary, and the new members were required to take the oath of death. Seeing the negotiated terms and conditions, both of them felt full of energy. It's better that you don't come forward in person in this organization. Let me do it, Keswich said to his friend. After thinking for a while. After Dmitrievich heard it, he knew that it was his friend who was trying to protect him, so he paused and said slowly, alright, but you have to be more careful yourself. Facing the concern of his friend, Keswich sat on the sofa, playing with the apple in his hand, and spoke with sharp eyes. Don't worry, no one can threaten me. In a small independent building on the outskirts of the capital Belgrade, the Black Hand will be officially established. The Black Hand will develop wildly with the prosperity of Serbian nationalism. As for the final result, the founders Dmitrievich and Keswich did not expect. Chapter 64 Preparations before speculation. While Colonel Dmitrievich and his friends were about to trouble Austria-Hungary, Edel was also busy in his office. The Crown Prince ding ding rang the summoning bell on the table, and a young guard walked into the office. Edel handed a document with his own opinions after reading it, and handed it to the guard who walked in. Majiri, send this document to the Prime Minister. The bodyguard named Majili stretched out his hand to take the document and said, okay, Your Highness. Turning to leave the office, Edel picked up another report and began to look. It's really a headache. Are the officials in Galati all idiots? Edel, who saw the report, couldn't help but scolded. This is a story of local government officials covering up the rich to commit crimes. It is estimated that they were a bit arrogant after staying in the local area for a long time. The blatant covering up caused local riots. Ding ding ding. Edel hurriedly pressed the summoning bell. Your Highness, what are your orders? A guard trotted in and asked. Take this document to the supervision department and ask them to let the officials who caused the riot get out of the way immediately. Edel handed the document to the guard and said to his guard in an undisguised tone of dissatisfaction. His Royal Highness, I will convey your meaning to the supervision department. The guard told him, after taking the document, it is believed that the official will soon feel the care of the Crown Prince. After seeing this report, Edel lost interest in continuing to work for a while. He leaned back in his chair and sighed, feeling a sense of exhaustion coming up both physically and mentally. I really feel like I want to leave my work and go out and have a look. Edel had such an idea in his heart. Dab. A knock on the door interrupted his thoughts. Edel quickly adjusted his sitting position and his expression recovered. Please come in. His Royal Highness, this is the rubber information you need. The captain of the guard, Karist, walked in front of the Crown Prince after entering the door. Send the information to the Crown Prince's desk. What's the investigation like? Edel didn't read the information first and asked his chief guard first. According to the rubber market research in London, Singapore, and Rio de Janeiro, it seems that there will be a big market for rubber at present. Karist replied. After listening to his chief guard's analysis, Edel picked up the information and looked up. With the great development of the automobile industry, the demand for rubber has increased sharply. At the same time, rubber has also become an emerging material for many industrial products and is very popular. Last year, the UK imported 840,000 pounds of rubber, and this year it increased to 1.41 million pounds. The United States also imported $57 million of rubber, which increased to $70 million this year according to the data. After the Volkswagen truck became popular, the price of rubber in the London market rose slowly from 2 shillings per pound to 2 shillings and 15 pence before the Model T was released, and now the rubber price in the London market is again it rose 15p to a price of 3 shillings 10p. It's almost time to prepare. Edel concluded in his heart, after checking the information, that speculation needs to be prepared in advance. Captain of the guards, call President Wiriachi to come over tomorrow. Edel said to Callist. Okay, your highness, I'll have someone bring news to President Wiriachi in a while. Karest said to the crown prince. You can find 2 more reliable people who understand Chinese and English. I guess you need to use it. Edel said to the captain of the guard, a little melancholy. Karest didn't know why the crown prince suddenly became melancholy, but Edel's request made him a little difficult now. There are not many people who can speak English in Romania, but it is very rare to know Chinese. The head guard can only go to the school to see if there is a suitable candidate. Seeing that the head of the guard looked a little tangled, Edel wondered if he was asking too much. You don't need to be proficient in Chinese. You only need to be able to understand the dialogue and understand the text. Edel decided to lower the requirements. Okay, your highness, I'll do it right now. The captain of the guard led the task given by the crown prince and went out. Edel is also very confused about whether or not to send someone to Shanghai, and now he can only prepare first. Just when the crown prince was confused because of his personal feelings as the president of the Romanian Industrial and Commercial Bank, Wiriachi was proud of himself. As a small bank owner who was about to go bankrupt before, Wiriachi suffered a lot. Now all those who gave him hardships are flattering him. Why can't he walk with a red face and wind? All this requires the help of nobles, and the noble of Wiriachi is our crown prince, His Royal Highness Edel. In Edel's acquisition and integration of these small banks to form the Industrial and Commercial Bank of China, Wiriachi took the lead in selling his own bank and was promoted by the crown prince to the vice president. Later, seeing that his ability was good and he was very obedient, he was turned into a regular president. Just when Wiriachi sat in the office and sighed about his good opportunity, is President Wiriachi in there? A questioning voice came in. Then he heard his secretary's answer. Do you have anything to do with our president? I'll let you know. It's not that I'm looking for him, it's the crown prince who is looking for him. When Wiriachi heard the word crown prince, he hurriedly tidied up his clothes. Then he saw his secretary and walked in with a young man in his 20s. Hello, I don't know if your highness needs me. Wiriachi asked the guards from the palace with a smile. His Royal Highness will summon you in the palace tomorrow morning, President Wiriachi. The guard stated the purpose of this trip. I will arrive on time for His Highness's summons. Can I ask what's going on? Wiriachi asked the guard. Found this guard looking at him and explained with a smile. I just want to prepare in advance so that the crown prince can be more informed. I don't know that. I need to go back to my life. The guard didn't give an answer, so he planned to go back. Then thank this gentleman. After sending off the guard who brought the news, Wiriachi sat in his office chair and thought. In the absence of a clear direction, it is only necessary to prepare in all aspects. It seems that we need to work overtime tonight. The next day, Wiriachi sat in the waiting room of the palace, waiting for the crown prince's summons. In the waiting room, Wiriachi was still looking at the documents. At about 10:30, a guard came in and told that the crown prince Wiriachi was waiting for him. Wiriachi walked into the crown prince's office and after seeing Edel saluted. He said, I have seen His Royal Highness. Edel looked at the president he had chosen in front of him and asked, how is banking now? The development of banks is very good now, because everyone knows that ICBC is a royal family, so most of them are willing to deposit their money with us. After hearing what Governor Wiriachi said, Edel was still quite satisfied and continued to ask, if you are allowed to withdraw funds without affecting the normal operation of the bank, how much can you withdraw? By the way, you need to use these funds for a year. After hearing the question from the Crown Prince, President Moriarty did not answer immediately, but calculated in his mind how much funds could be drawn, and Edel did not bother him. After a few minutes, Moriarty told the Crown Prince, "His Royal Highness, after calculating, the bank can withdraw funds worth £1.2 million." After hearing Moriarty's words, Edel inquired about the current basic situation of the bank, and let President Moriarty leave. In his heart, Edel calculated the funds that he could mobilize. After deducting the loan to be repaid, and the construction cost of the power plant under construction, he could have £870,000 of funds to use, plus bank funds. A total of £2.07 million can be used in this crisis. In Chapter 65 Speculators. At 10:30 in the morning, it is now the class time of the University of Bucharest. In the Oriental Language classroom of the Department of Languages, Professor Gischalk is giving a class to the students' classmates. Please open the 64th page of your book, The Skills of Oriental Language. We will learn its writing method today. Professor Gischalk, who was standing on the podium, preached to the sparsely seated students in the classroom. Professor Gischalk is a rare Oriental language expert in Romania. He is proficient in Chinese, Japanese and spoken languages. He has also been to the East and seen the humanistic scenery there before, and he is very fascinated by the mysterious Oriental culture. Professor Gischalk looked at the dozen or so students in the classroom and felt helpless in his heart. Since Romania has no interest in the East, and it is difficult to learn Oriental hieroglyphs, there are only a dozen or so students who are willing to learn this language. For the professor who wants to promote Oriental culture, there is only a face of helplessness. Just when Professor Gischalk was teaching his knowledge to the students seriously, a few uninvited guests came outside the classroom. Mr. Kerest, he is the best Chinese language expert in our school, and also the best Chinese language expert in Romania. The president of the University of Bucharest, Big Scholar, is introducing Gisto to the head guard of Kerest, Professor Elt. Then let's wait outside for him to finish his class before going in. The captain of the guard said to Principal Big Scholar in front of him. Also, it's a virtue not to interrupt students' learning. It could be seen that Principal Big Scholar cared about his students very much. After the captain of the guard Kerest got the request from the Crown Prince, after some thought, I felt that only the school could meet the needs of the Crown Prince. The University of Bucharest, the best school in Romania, became the target of the head guard. After finding the headmaster Big Scholar and telling the Crown Prince's request, the headmaster led them to Professor Gischalk. After waiting for a while, they saw Professor Gischalk, who came out. After packing up the textbooks, Principal, do you have anything to do with me? Professor Gischalk, who walked out of the classroom, stepped forward and asked. He had seen the principal and his party outside the classroom before. As a teacher, Gischalk needed to be responsible for his students, so he continued to teach the students, and did not come forward to ask questions until after class. Professor Gischalk, this is the captain of the guard Kerest. I need your help with something. Principal Big Scholar pointed to the captain of the guard and said to him. Hello, Professor Gischalk. The captain of the guard stepped forward and shook hands to show his goodwill. Hello, Captain Kerest, the professor said after reaching out and holding the captain. Let's discuss things. There are still a lot of things in the school that I need to handle, so I won't bother. Seeing that both sides knew each other, Principal Big Scholar also planned to go back and do his own business. Thanks to Principal Big Scholar for his help. Kerest expressed his gratitude to the principal. Goodbye, Mr. Principal. Professor Gischalk also greeted the principal. After seeing the headmaster leave, Gischalk preached to the chief of the guards. Come to my office and talk. Alright, please lead the way. The group came to Professor Gischalk's office, and after greeting the captain of the guards and his party to sit down, Gischalk asked the chief of the guards. I don't know, Mr. Kerest, what do you need me to do? We want to ask you for help. Find us someone who can write and read Chinese. However, we need to be smart, innocent, and have a high enough patriotism. The captain of the guard stated his request. I'll think about it first. Facing the request of the captain of the guards, Professor Gischalk asked which one of his students would be suitable in his mind. I figured it out. After thinking for a while, the professor thought of a very suitable candidate. Professor Gistuk, please speak. Karest asked after hearing that the professor was selected. It's one of my students. His full name is Ludwig Frederikse. He usually likes to make patriotic speeches on campus, and he likes to participate in various school activities. After Gistuk named this candidate, he also stated the points that did not meet the requirements. But his father was in jail for speaking out against the government. After hearing the professor's answer, Karest knew that this should be the best candidate, and he said it. After thinking about it, well, can you call him over and let us talk to him? Okay. Professor Gistuk agreed. After a while, the professor brought back a young man in his 20s. This is Frederische. The professor pointed to the young man behind him. Karest looked at the young man with a uniform figure in front of him. He was 1.7 meters tall, dressed in simple and clean clothes, with a high nose bridge and slightly sunken eyes, giving him a particularly strong temperament. Hello, classmate Frederische, it's nice to see you. After Karest stepped forward to shake his hand, he found that the classmate named Frederick had a rough hand, and it seemed that his family was not very good. After withdrawing his hand, the captain of the guard continued to speak. Student Frederische, we are from the palace. You can call me Karest. This time we need to find someone who can understand Chinese and understand Chinese culture. Your professor recommended you to us. Now we want to hear your wishes. Are you willing to do things for the kingdom? After speaking, the captain of the guard looked at Frederische in front of him. After hearing Karest's words, Frederische replied with surprise. I'm willing to make my own contribution to the kingdom. He paused here, and after hesitating for a while, he seemed determined to say, but my father once opposed the government. Do you still need me now? At the end, Frederische's voice, the little one, is like a woman whispering, and it can be seen that he is very dissatisfied with his father's actions. Please rest assured, we are looking for you, because you are trustworthy. Besides, your father's affairs should not be implicated in you. Karest comforted the hot-blooded young man in front of him without blushing, and seemed to be staying by the crown prince's side for a long time. After that, the captain of the guards also had some kind of change. Thank you for the kingdom's trust in me. I'm willing to do anything for the motherland. Frederische, who was encouraged by the chief guard, said with a flushed face, because of excitement. You go to prepare to take a break from school, and we will take you to training and arrange tasks for you. The captain of the guard said to Frederische. Okay, I'll go back and prepare. Looking at Frederische, who was about to leave after opening the door, the captain of the guard added something behind his back. Remember not to mention it to your classmates, good sir. After seeing Frederische go out the door, Karest spoke to Professor Gistuk. Thank you for your help, Mr. Professor. We'll say goodbye first. Goodbye, Your Excellency Chief Guard. I won't say anything. You can come to me if you need it. Professor Gistuk is not an idiot either. The next day, after completing the suspension procedures, Frederick, led by a guard, came to a relatively remote villa in the suburbs. After entering the door, Frederick saw several people waiting like himself, and Frederick was about to talk to someone. A fat middle-aged man in his 40s walked down the stairs on the second floor with an assistant. After seeing several people looking at him, the slightly obese middle-aged man spoke to them aloud. You can call me Mr. Crystal, and now I need each of you to forget your name, and we'll give you a new one. After the fat man named Christo finished speaking, the assistant behind him asked everyone their names in a low voice, and handed them a new name. It could be seen that everyone had a fixed new role. Frederische also took his new name, Brookstree, the son of a British businessman. After seeing the note that everyone got their new name, Christo asked them, now I need to train you for a month, mainly on your etiquette, and someone will teach you some financial knowledge. You must learn this knowledge during this period to serve the kingdom. Understand? Several people answered loudly clear. In the following month, Frederische was also adjusting to his new life, learning etiquette in the morning and financial literacy in the afternoon, and everyone met with his new name. Gradually, the student atmosphere of Frederick changed, and now he is more and more like a businessman with good family conditions. While Frederick was making some kind of preparations for his country, Crown Prince Edel was also listening to the progress of the work of the head guard. Chang Liuxi, classmate, your bento is ready. Please eat it with confidence. Chapter 66. Prepare to speculate. Just as Friedrich's training was about to be completed, the captain of the guard Karist was asking Edel's arrangement in the palace. His Royal Highness, our manpower for this operation is almost ready. You can see when it is appropriate to start. How do you arrange these people? In the face of the Crown Prince's question, the captain of the guard Karist answered. We arranged for them to go to London and Shanghai as businessmen from Britain, France and the United States. Among them, we arranged a group of 3 people in London, and in Shanghai in Qing Dynasty, we arranged 2 groups of people. Due to the distance, we also prepared there as a general manager. Usually, each group runs a leather bag company, and each group cannot communicate with each other. Hearing the answer from the head guard, Edel was quite satisfied with this arrangement. He also thought about his motherland in his previous life, and decided to earn it first. He is better than others. If he can sell some weapons to help him in the future, he will be worthy of his conscience. The Crown Prince, who had figured this out, asked the chief guard to focus on Shanghai. It seemed that Karist understood the meaning of the Crown Prince. This operation must be secret. Even if you make less money, you can't go wrong. Edel explained to the captain of the guard. It's not that the Crown Prince is worried about Karist, but that this money is the last money Edel can come up with. If it weren't for the memory of the previous life, I would know that there is this rubber crisis. He will never come to speculate. The risk is too great to pay. Okay, Your Highness, I'll let them check again for loopholes. The head guard also knew that the royal family's funds were not too much now, so it's good to be careful about this speculation. Still in the Crown Prince's office 4 days later, Edel read the plan replanned by the chief of the guard, and Karist stood at the Crown Prince's table waiting for Edel's evaluation. It's done well this time. It's perfect enough. At least I can't find any loopholes. The Crown Prince smiled and said to the head guard standing at the table after reading it. The steps of this new plan are similar to the previous ones, but the concealment is very good, especially the final evacuation, which makes Edel very satisfied. Seeing that the Crown Prince agreed with the plan, the chief guard took out a list of personnel for this operation and handed it to Edel. His Royal Highness, here is the list of operatives and their CVs. The Crown Prince took over the list of chief guards, and it seemed that Edel mainly looked at the names of the people who were going to Shanghai. When he saw Friedrich, who was still a student, he raised his head and asked the chief guard, this student's mission is not low, can he undertake this mission? Hearing the Crown Prince's question, the captain of the guard told Edel about the process of recruiting this Friedrich classmate and his performance during training. Finally, it is concluded that Friedrich is in line with the standard. Since you have almost prepared, you can arrange for them to prepare. Edel picked up the list of personnel and said to the chief guard. Okay, Your Highness, I will let them show satisfactory results. After making some kind of assurance to the Crown Prince, the chief guard left the Crown Prince's office. In the villa where he trained in the suburbs, Friedrich, who had just completed the training yesterday, sat quietly on a rattan chair in the back garden and read a book. The current Friedrich student is dressed in expensive clothes, shiny hair, and a pair of Italian calfskin shoes. Every move is very aristocratic. He is the fastest learner in this batch of training, and now I can't tell that he was an ordinary student before. Christo, who was standing at the window, pointed to Friedrich who was reading a book, and said to the captain of the guard beside him. He learns things fast. It's better for you to train. The captain of the guard praised Christo beside him. I kind of want to keep this guy. After the fat Christo said it, he was obviously tempted. I need to take him away now and thank your Milik for me, Karist said to Christo, who was seeing him. I will show your sincerity to our director. Looking at the Crown Prince's confidant who walked out of the door, Christo, who was Milik's subordinate, was still very polite. Now everyone knows that the Crown Prince is gradually gaining power. As the head of the king's eyes and ears, Milik, it is the most difficult to grasp the proportions. Friedrich, I heard from Christo that you have been studying very quickly recently. Friedrich, who was looking down at the book, heard the question from behind him, and then the captain of the guard with a calm and indifferent face walked in front of him. It's a pleasure to meet you, Your Excellency, the captain of the bodyguard. Seeing the captain of the bodyguard appearing in front of him, Fredericia made a polite noble etiquette to the captain of the bodyguard. By the way, the captain of the guard, my name is now Brookstree, the second son of a nobleman, and he intends to do business after getting a property. After hearing what Fredericia said in front of him, the captain of the guard was very satisfied with his performance. Is completely a British aristocratic model. Sorry, Mr. Stree, now your training is complete. You need to go to Shanghai as soon as possible with your partner and set up your own rubber company. The captain of the guard said a rare joke, although it wasn't funny. Okay, sir, wait for me to pack up and salute. After saying that, Frederick put away the books in his hand and prepared to go back to the room to take his personal belongings away. No need to clean up, I will prepare a new one for you. The captain of the guard said to Fredericia. Karist left the villa with Fredericia, where he had been training for a month. Under the leadership of the captain of the guard, he came to a small building in the city, where Fredericia met two of his partners, a young man named Felix who was his servant, and a man named C. Tockles. Middle-aged man was his housekeeper. There are 3 groups of people here with their own subordinates, and the chief in charge is the captain of the bodyguard. Karist. Everyone, come here. After the crowd in the hall heard the chief guard's greeting, they gathered in their respective groups. Standing beside Frederick were his 2 partners. Now each team leader comes over to get your mission information, Karist said after seeing everyone coming. The captain of the guard distributes a file bag to each group leader. Fredericia looked at a document bag in his hand. The cover only had a number 1 document bag. The team leaders of the other 2 groups also looked at the file bags and believed that they had the same number. Karist said after seeing that each group was given a file bag. Each group goes back to their room to view the content and destroys it after reading it. Each group must keep the content confidential and do not inquire about other people's content. You will leave the day after tomorrow. Frederick, who returned to the room, and the other 2 members of the group looked at the contents given by the captain of the guard. Fredericia found that the identity he used during training was the character's requirements this time, and it had not changed at all. After reading it, the 3 spent 2 days memorizing the character's requirements. On the 3rd day, they were arranged to take a train to Constanta, first to Liverpool, England, and then a cruise to Shanghai. After arranging for their group to leave, the captain of the guard returned to the palace to report to the crown prince. The personnel have been released, and we are waiting for the final harvest. Understood. Bang Tao can ask for a recommendation ticket. Chapter 67. The Rubber Crisis 1. At the end of May, the sun has already warmed to a certain extent, and people on the street are wearing single clothes. This season is a good time to doze off. Zhang Gao is walking on the street wearing a new outfit. The 2 neighbors who knocked on the side talked about Zhang Gao who passed by. Now that Egal has developed and is valued by foreigners to help them do things, he may become a big comprador in the future. Yeah, it's really good. I couldn't afford to eat last month, and now I'm shaking. There was a sourness in his speech. After Zhang Egal heard the discussion between the 2 behind him, he walked more and more tremblingly, and his bones became lighter by 2 teals. Egal is resting now. I'm going out to do some errands. Uncle who was selling chaos at the entrance of the alley, greeted Egal Zhang with a friendly smile. Yeah, Mr. Stree has so many things in a day. I only have to run errands. Who makes these foreign adults difficult to serve? It's really hard. Zhang Egal told Uncle Hu about his own life, suffering, but with a smug look on his face. He could tell that he was suffering. Master Yang has to eat when he's busy. I just ordered chaos for you, and it's your Uncle Hu's invitation. Uncle Hu picked up a bowl of chaos and handed it to Zhang Gao. If you have something to do with Uncle Hu, just say it first. Your bowl of chaos is not delicious. Zhang Gao knew that Uncle Hu was smiling, was shrewd and wanted to do things by himself. Isn't this the one I heard that you helped? The foreign firm called Siwili is selling stocks. I heard that buying this stock can get a dividend of 5.24 yuan every 3 months. Uncle Hu asked Zhang cautiously. A dog. After hearing Uncle Hu's words, Zhang Gao didn't care about him saying his foreign name was wrong. He just looked him up and down. Uncle Hu, you must know that this share of stock costs 60 teals. Can you afford it? Zhang Gao asked in disbelief. After hearing Zhang Gao's question, Uncle Hu continued to talk with a smile. Didn't I ask you? I don't know if it's reliable or not. After speaking, he handed Zhang Gao a pack of cigarettes. When Zhang Gao saw that the cigarettes were good, he put them away and said in a better tone, Nanyang Sing Nanyang has 2 rubber plantations with 4,000 mu of land. 1 pound of rubber can now be sold for 3 taels of 1 cent. If you buy that stock now, wait for the money to be collected at home. Our dog, this rubber is so profitable, and your foreigner boss will give us money. You have such a good heart. Aunt Zhang, who sold cloth shoes next to her, didn't believe it. The foreigners were so kind to give them money. After hearing someone questioning his words, Zhang Gao retorted with an angry look on his face. That's because our foreign firm has to expand production and plan to build 2 more rubber plantations with 5,000 mu of land. If we don't have enough money, we will find it cheap. If we have enough money, who will give you the chicken that lays the golden egg? Zhang Jinhu, I tell you, now is the time when you want to buy it or not. Zhang Gao looked at the people who were gradually approaching and said that he did not forget to punish Aunt Zhang, who dared to question her. After hearing the reason given by Zhang Gao, everyone became interested in this Willis Rubber Company and they stepped forward to inquire about Zhang Gao. Aunt Zhang, who was selling shoe soles, saw that such a good thing was really happening and quickly stepped forward to hold a Gao Zhang and said to a Gao Zhang repentantly in a tone that almost burst into tears, Our dog, it's all aunts who are ignorant. For the sake of the neighbors who have been in the neighborhood for so many years, you should treat the aunt's words as a fart point. After receiving the remorse from the doubter, Aunt Zhang, Zhang Gao's self-esteem was greatly satisfied, and he talked about it generously. Forget it, they are all the neighbors, and I don't want to look bad, so let's just forget about it. The people around said cheered. Brother Gao is generosity. Yes, benevolence and righteousness. Uncle Hu looked at Zhang Gao, who was being praised for not being able to find Betty, and thinking that the business had not yet been done, he stretched out his hand and pulled him over to speak. Gao, you have to help Uncle Hu this time. My savings for many years can be counted on you. After hearing Uncle Hu's words, Zhang Gao told the crowd watching the excitement. Okay, it's nothing. I want to know the situation of this rubber, and I will say, when I come back in the evening, everyone should leave. After hearing Zhang Gao shouting, the people watching the excitement all dispersed in 2s and 3s. After seeing everyone walking away, Zhang Gao told Uncle Hu, I can't guarantee whether Uncle Hu can buy stocks from our foreign firm now. I can only take you there. I'll prepare for that. After speaking, Uncle Hu took off the chain on his body, took out a bag from under the chaos booth, and held it tightly in his hand. I told Aunt Zhang, who was selling shoe soles next to me, old sister-in-law, you can help me watch it. I'll be back when I go. If you're hungry, cook a bowl of chaos and eat it. Look at what you said. I can still eat your food. You can go. By the way, let's explore the way. I will help you watch. Aunt Zhang said to Uncle Hu. After getting help from Aunt Zhang to take care of his stall, Uncle Hu followed a Gao Zhang to the Willis Rubber Company on Yanjiang Road on the Bund. When Aunt Zhang saw them walking away, she thought in her heart whether she should convey the news to her relatives. Thinking about it, I was a little hungry, so I went to Uncle Hu's wonton stand to see if he could cook some wonton noodles to eat. When I opened the lid of the stand, where the ingredients were placed, there were only 5 raw wontons left. Aunt Zhang immediately felt unhappy and said cursingly, You can't kill you, Mr. Hu. You are too embarrassed to invite me to eat just 5 ravioli. Aunt Zhang felt scolded and pissed off, and picked up the 5 ravioli in the dustpan, and put it into the pot. I'll eat 5 too. Don't think I'm easy to play with. The two walked all the way to Willis Company, and they chatted while walking along the way. Uncle Hu can't tell you can make money selling wontons. Zhang Gao, who was walking on the dusty road, asked Uncle Hu, how can I make so much money selling some wontons? Gao, this place was forcibly bought by Liu Jiren from my hometown. It's just a piece of work. When my son grows up, he has to marry a daughter-in-law and settle down. I can only find an opportunity to earn some money and let the children settle down. Uncle Hu said this with tears in his eyes. You can rest assured on me, but you know, Uncle Hu, after all, it's very hard to do things for you. Don't worry, your Uncle Hu won't treat you badly, as long as you can help me do this. Uncle Hu will give you half of the dividend for the first time. After hearing Zhang Gao's words, Uncle Hu was unequivocal, and he take dividends and make a wish to him. Okay, Uncle Hu is guaranteed to succeed. Zhang Gao also made a ticket point that to quickly walk to the gate of the Willis Rubber Company at number 17 Yanjiang Road. Uncle Hu, let's be stylish. This is what Dayang Crossing should look like. Zhang Gao said to Uncle Hu next to him, a building with a total of 4,000 square meters on 3 floors in front of him. This was originally used by an American businessman to open a foreign bank, which was sold a few years ago because of domestic financial constraints. Due to the high price, no one took over until it was bought by Sri from UK. Uncle Hu, you wait here, I'll ask you for help, but don't leave. Zhang Gao said to Uncle Hu next to him. Don't worry, why are you leaving? I'm still waiting for your reply. After greeting Uncle Hu, Zhang Gao tidied up his clothes and walked in while bending over as Mr. Felix in the office. Zhang Gao asked a new employee next to him. Manager Phillips is in his office. The employee said to Zhang Gao. After Zhang Gao asked, he walked to the door of Phillips' office, tidied up his clothes, and knocked gently on the door 3 times. Please come in. Hearing the voice coming from the office, Zhang Gao bent again and walked in. It turned out to be Zhang Ah. What's the matter? Seeing Zhang Gao walking in, Phillips asked in his not fluent Chinese. For Phillips, this was still the result of his training. It's like this. My relatives want to buy the company's stock. Don't know if there are any more. Zhang Gao said to Phillips word by word. You mean, you want to buy stocks for your piano and chess? Choked to death. Zhang Gao replied, citing his few English words. You know, we don't have many stocks for tapping. How much do you buy medicine for your relatives? 1 share. After some guessing conversations, Zhang Gao finally helped to Laosan buy one, and Willis Rubber Company issued a stock with a face value of 60 taels of silver. After Uncle Hu paid the money and got a stock certificate, he took Zhang Gao's hand and said it. Uncle Hu prepared some good dishes at home in the evening to comfort you. Look at what you're saying. How can Uncle Hu continue to spend money? Zhang Gao delayed insincerely. That's it. Uncle Hu is waiting for you at night. Just as they were being polite, an employee ran out of the building and shouted, Brother Zhang, Mr. Sri asked you to come in. After hearing his boss's call, Zhang Gao didn't care about being polite and hurriedly followed the employee into the building. Chapter 68 The Rubber Crisis 2. Zhang Gao followed the employee to the office of the company boss Sri on the 3rd floor. Zhang Gao bent forward and asked carefully to Sri, who was standing in front of the floor-to-ceiling window looking out at the scenery of the Huangpu River. I've seen the boss. I don't know what instructions I have. After hearing Zhang Gao's question, Sri continued to look at the scenery outside and asked, what happened to what I asked you to do? Now I have found a lot of people to tell them to spread the news that our company is now issuing rubber stocks to distribute dividends. Now the news is basically known on the street. Sri listened to his answer to himself. Sri still knows about this man named Zhang Gao, a person from the bottom of the society, who has no culture and doesn't want to work hard, is very well informed about the gossip, and thinks about where to find some money every day, which is better than a local ruffian. Now they need someone like that to know what the city is doing. And when it is not convenient for them to go out, they can let Zhang, who is a local, negotiate with them. Zhang, you did a good job. I see it all in my eyes. Now I need you to help me with another thing. Boss, please tell me. Zhang Gao, who didn't know his future destiny, was still very grateful to this boss and nobleman who spoke Chinese more fluently than himself. When he heard that he needed to do something, he quickly stepped forward to show his loyalty. I want you to go to the leader of the city gang and ask them to find someone to help us promote the company's stock. Can you do it? Sri turned to watch him say his request. No problem. The boss is all up to me. It's too easy to hear that he wants to find the gang. For Zhang Gao, who has been at the bottom since he was a child, the gang is a part of his life. Sri continued. Zhang, it's you who came forward this time. You can give them 3,000 taels of silver as a reward, but it will take 15 of them 4 months. Zhang Gao was also surprised when he heard the reward offered by his boss. 5 or 2 months is 4 times the wages of ordinary workers today, and they can still get 4 consecutive months. This made Zhang Gao almost come forward to check If his boss was suffering from epilepsy, of course it's not. That Stree is crazy. It's the result of careful calculation. If you want to quickly open the situation, throwing money is the best way. Buying an office building at a high price and hiring people to do errands at a high price are all for this result. Stree wants to tell the whole Shanghai that Willis Rubber Company doesn't care about the small money because it has better money. Boss, isn't the price a bit high? Zhang Gao still felt like a reminder to show his loyalty. Do you want you to teach me what to do? Facing Zhang Gao's question, Stree felt the need to beat him. The boss is my talkative. This time I will definitely do it beautifully. Zhang Gao, who had failed to show loyalty, said quickly, and he didn't forget to slap himself a few times. He was really a good dog's leg. Go to the finance department and get the money to do things. Stree said to Zhang Gao. After speaking, I suddenly felt that, although this person is not a good person, he knows how to figure out people's thoughts and can relieve the pressure in his heart. After Zhang Gao walked out of Stree's office, he put away his flattering appearance. Although he has no other skills, he is still a good player in observing his words and deciphering his thoughts. Zhang Gao, who was walking in the corridor, was a bit content to evaluate himself in his heart, and when he came to the corner, he almost collided with a figure. Zhang, don't you look when you're walking? Stoker, who was almost hit, scolded Zhang Gao in English. Seeing that he almost bumped into the boss butler, he didn't understand his bird language, but Zhang Gao knew that this was not a good word by looking at his expression, so he quickly put on a flattering expression and nodded and apologized to him. Sorry, Mr. Stoker, I'm sorry, I didn't notice. Although Stoker's Chinese is very poor, he didn't understand Zhang Gao's words, but he understood the meaning of his expression. Stoker waved to him and walked directly to Stree's office. Seeing that Stoker didn't mean to blame, Zhang Gao hurried to do what Stree explained. Stoker walked into Stree's office and spoke to Stree, who was still looking out the window at the scenery of the Huangpu River. We bought it from a rubber plantation in Sumatra that cost us £50,000. The price is not high. The 3,000 acres of rubber plantation is still worth it. Hearing that the assistant was a little dissatisfied with the price, Stree felt it necessary to explain. The rise in rubber prices has led to the construction of a large number of rubber plantations, especially the ones that can produce rubber, are too difficult to buy. If it hadn't been for our local people to use a little trick, it would have been even more difficult. Stoker nodded in agreement with Stree's words. That's good. At least it allows us to bring back more money. When they were talking about how to harm King's money, Zhang Gao also led Stree's explanation, thinking about who to give this wealth to. In his mind, flashed one by one the street figures he guided, and finally Zhang Gao chose a person who he was familiar with and had a good reputation. Kayasi, who was a prominent figure in his arms. After some inquiries, Zhang Gao finally met him at the casino, run by Kayasi. After some greetings, Kayasi asked Zhang Gao why he was looking for him. Brother Gao has something to do with me this time. As a prominent figure, Kayasi still knows about Zhang Gao's affairs. For some unknown reason, this little Dunson came across a big foreign businessman. This time he came to find him because the foreign businessman behind him had something to help. In the face of Kayasi's courtesy, Zhang Gao also feels that he has a face. After all, not everyone can get Kayasi's courtesy. The fourth brother is looking for you this time because there is a big business and I want to ask you for help. How much business did Brother Gao bring me? Kayasi asked, while playing with his jade bong. This time Willis /U0026 Co will take 4 months for number 150 people and 3,000 taels of silver. Zhang Gao told Kayasi the purpose of looking for him this time, and he did not forget to extend 3,000 taels of silver. A finger gesture. After hearing Zhang Gao's words of 3,000 taels as a reward, Kayasi put down his smoking gun and said, "This is indeed a big deal. And I'll take this job. But you can't fool my boss with some crooked melons and crack dates. Brother Gao, you also know the name of my Kayasi, and it is the most fair to do things. This is a deposit of 1,500 taels, and the other half will be paid after the work is done." Zhang Gao took out 15 yuan Feng Run silver notes that he had not yet warmed up and placed them in front of Kayasi. At this moment, he felt that he had never been so proud. Brother Gao is refreshing. After Kayasi praised He took out one and handed it to Zhang Gao and said, "It's not easy for brother Gao to help Yangxing run errands. This is T-money. This is your money. How can I take it?" Zhang Gao delayed politely. Brother Gao, I don't take you as an outsider. You introduced such a business to me. It is a respect for me, so don't delay, otherwise I will turn my face. Facing Zhang Gao's mentality, KAC knew it too well, and good luck broke out with a small pear and 3 crosses. Now give him a little favor and befriend him, so that you can catch the line of foreign companies in the future. After completing the task assigned by his boss, Zhang Gao felt that he should go to comfort himself. Uncle who is still waiting to invite him to dinner. After eating, he will go to Yijin Tower to find Zhao Mix and Feng Beihuo. Zhang Gao, who was thinking of a good place, swayed towards Uncle Hu's house. Recommend a German novel of World War II, The Third Reich in Despair. The author King Yang Fiu updates 8,000 words every day, which is much better than the handicapped party of Mantau. Today, interested book lovers can go and read it. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelos. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 69 The Rubber Crisis 3. A week later, in front of the Willis building on Yanjiang Road, a group of tall, short, fat, and thin people lined up in a long line, watching KAC and Zhang Gao chatting together. Brother Gao, I'm looking for a good person. This person is not bad. Zhang Gao answered carefully, looking at the people KAC had brought. I, KAC, have always been reliable in my work, and I have chosen them specially. I don't want anyone with a disheveled face. I don't want someone who looks sick and old at first sight, and I don't want someone who looks surprised. It may not be okay for these people to pretend to be rich, and ordinary people are not at all no problem. KAC praised the manpower he brought, and Zhang Gao nodded in agreement when he heard KAC's words. After seeing the relationship gradually being drawn, KAC asked tentatively, "Brother Gao, you said Mr. Stree, can I meet him?" Hearing KAC's words, Zhang Gao raised his vigilance. He has the current glory by helping Stree to do things, and now KAC clearly wants to pry his own job, which makes Zhang Gao uncomfortable. Fourth brother, you know, Mr. Stree has too many things to do in a day. I can't see him. I can only talk to him when I have time. Hearing that Zhang Gao shied away, KAC knew that he was impatient. I can't blame him. Now this Stree has a big reputation in Shanghai. The newspapers are saying that the rubber market is very good these days. In the newspapers, the master was specifically mentioned, saying that he wanted to build the world's largest rubber production park in Nanyang. It also attracted a lot of people talking in the newspapers. Now the most famous supporter is Mr. Mabian of Langley Company. This Mr. Mabian is not an ordinary person either. He came to Shanghai in 1903 and sold all kinds of goods, but the business has never been improved. Until seeing the price of rubber gradually rising, Mabian thought it was an opportunity. In Shanghai, the benefits of rubber are hyped, and they want to make their own money. However, due to his lack of funds, the market reaction was not strong enough, which made him a headache. Now that he meets the well-funded Stree, he is also willing to help Stree to promote the prospect of rubber. Now he is sitting in his office listening to the news from his subordinates. "Boss, I heard that Willis stock is still not much sold. Most people are still waiting and watching, and they plan to take a look." After reporting his inquiries to Mabian, the subordinate asked his boss's plans. "Boss, the Willis company has made a lot of noise. Even the ambassadors know that a new rubber businessman has come to Shanghai and plans to build the largest rubber company. Are we looking at them like this? You do your own thing, and you don't need to worry about the rest." Mabian didn't want to explain to him what his subordinates said. In his heart, he was jealous and resentful. He was not as strong as others, and could only drink some soup behind others. There was nothing he could do about it. In the Willis company they were talking about, Stree and Felix and Stoker were also talking about the current situation. The situation is good now. At least no one in Shanghai does not know our Willis company. Stree, who was the leader, expressed satisfaction with the current situation. We have already spent £150,000, and we only have £600,000. Stoker, who is mainly in charge of fund management, is a little sad about the current spending. You must know that each of them only has a funding quota of 600,000 yuan, and the remaining 270,000 yuan is used as a reserve fund, which will not be used unless it is an emergency. It has only been a month since he arrived, and he has spent a quarter of it. How can he not feel anxious? Okay Stockel, this is a necessary expense in the early stage. I calculated that after the first dividend, we should have a great improvement. Stree said his estimate. I hope so. Stoker said with a little anxiety in his heart. Hey, don't just focus on work, relax yourself occasionally, it's good for work. Seeing that the two of them were talking about the topic so dull, Felix intends to liven up the atmosphere. Okay Felix, I can't relax at all with such a large sum of money now. Stoker's voice became much louder, obviously not interested in Felix's words. Stockel's words made Felix a little embarrassed. I'm going to relax with you. Are you going to drink or dance? Seeing Stoker's words made Felix a little uncomfortable, Stree remedied him. Alright, let's have a drink first, and then see the charm of Eastern Paris. Felix obviously forgot his unhappiness, and said to Stree. Stockel, are you really not going to go? Forget it, let's go. I'm going to look at the financial statements. There must be someone guarding our property. Faced with Stree's inquiries to ease the atmosphere, Stoker made a rare joke. After asking Stoker, the two went all the way to a nearby bar called Old Sailor, sat down in a remote corner, and asked the bartender for 2 glasses of brandy, and then the two chatted about their experiences in Shanghai. Do you know, Stree, I once wanted to meet the little-footed women inking, so I asked Zhang to take me there. Do you know where he took me? Felix told Stree. Fun thing. Where did he take you? Stree also wondered about the subsequent development. After he took me out for rent, he came to a brothel called Lichen Lao, and found me a prostitute who was only this tall. Felix continued while gesturing under his chest. The face was covered with thick white powder, and the lips were dyed black, which scared me at the time. Later I found out that she was a little girl who was only 13 years old. However, her feet were indeed very small, only 10 centimeters. I really don't know how it looks like. And after, in the face of Stree's questioning, Felix talked about the latter result. I scolded Zhang, and gave the little girl a little money. I swore I would never go to that kind of place again. Ha ha ha. Felix is so funny. Okay Stree, I just wanted to see if I was curious. How did I know it would be like this? I heard that there is a pretty good club on Huali Road. There are many ladies and ladies in it every day. We can go and have a look. While still at the bar, Felix made arrangements for the next step. Okay, let's meet these ladies. After drinking this cup. 3 months later, Willis Company distributed a dividend of 524 cents per share to the people who bought the stock. This made Willis Rubber Company famous in Shanghai, and Willis stock was sold out in the world. The profit of rubber also attracted many people to participate in this speculation. Due to the large amount of capital entering the rubber market, its price also rose to a high price of 329 cents per pound in September, a gap of 8 cents compared with 3 months ago, which made many people crazy. Things that people have never heard of before are now entering the eyes of the public. Now the Willis Company, which claims to be building the largest rubber plantation, is their main target. A Willis stock of 60 teals on the market has also risen, and it has been demanded to a high price of 80 teals. The rubber boom now driven by Edel has come early. It is estimated that some readers are not very comfortable with describing the scenes of the late Qing dynasty and the early Republic of China, and some people have asked this question to Mantao. Mantao has always cared about your thoughts. Let Mantao be self-willed this time, and once Mantao wants to write about the suffering, the dream of history. Everyone knows that the website is very stuck on that time period, and steamed bread can only be addicted to this rubber crisis once. After writing this paragraph, I will go back to Europe. Thank you for your willful tolerance of steamed bread. Thank you everyone. Close bracket. Chapter 70 The Rubber Crisis 4. As time approaches October, the weather is gradually getting cooler. People are also putting on autumn clothes, and the recently lively topic of constitutionalism has begun to cool down. Zhang Agao is also not what it used to be. Anyone who sees him on the street now calls him brother dog and master dog. Now even Kayasi, a prominent person on the street, calls him brother Zhang. Recently, he has become obsessed with the name Mr. Zhang, and as soon as he hears it, he knows that he is a gentleman. Mr. Zhang, eat a bowl of chaos. Uncle who was still selling chaos, called out now. No, I still have something to do with you. Zhang Gal, who was also wearing a foreigner suit, declined Uncle Hu's invitation. Uncle Hu, I'm going to move out, and you can't keep your stocks. Tell the neighbors that you can sell them when you see what's right. Seeing that Uncle Hu wanted to say something else, Zhang Gal continued to say his own intent. Gal, you want to move out? Uncle Hu couldn't even bother to call out Mr. Zhang and said quickly in surprise. After hearing the conversation between Uncle Hu and Zhang Gal, the surrounding neighbors gathered around to persuade Zhang Gal. Mr. Zhang, if you move out, we will have a hard time. Don't move, brother dog. Brother Gal, it will be difficult for us if you move away. There is a reason why the neighbors are so enthusiastic about retaining them. After Uncle Hu bought Willis shares and received the first dividend, everyone in the neighborhood also raised money and entrusted Zhang Gao to buy 6 shares to earn dividends together. After the Willis stock could not be bought in Shanghai, someone came up with the idea of the stock in the hands of these ordinary people and bought it at a high price of 90 taels. Neighbors are of course reluctant to sell. Everyone knows that Willis stock will have hundreds of momentum as a result. After being found out by a group of local hooligans, they planned to use force to squeeze these stocks from the neighbors, but it was Zhang Gao who came forward and called chaos to fail them. Now that Zhang Gao is planning to move out, whoever protects them, who are powerless, probably won't be able to lose the stocks in their hands. Hearing the neighbors' persuasion, Zhang Gao also had a headache. Okay, stop arguing. After hearing Zhang Gao's roar, the neighbors who came up all quieted down and watched Zhang Gao waiting for his speech. I bought a house in the concession and now I don't move there. Do you want my new house to feed the mice? I will come back to see you when I have time. Now the stock is about to earn a little bit and I can't take care of you all my life. Everyone leave. After Zhang Gao finished speaking, he squeezed out of the crowd and left. After seeing Zhang Gao leaving, the rest of the people knew that there was nothing they could do. Sold. Zhang Gao thought about his new house and was happy in his heart. It cost him nearly 1,000 taels of silver on the first floor and 2 floors of a small western style building. If he didn't live there, he really planned to take root in this dilapidated place. Zhang Gao, who was thinking about the new house, walked to the Willis building and looked at the crowd around the door who wanted to buy stocks and secretly despised it in his heart. I want to make money, but I'm afraid of taking risks, and now I want to buy the shares of Yangxing. It's just a dream. After some contempt in his heart, Zhang Gao walked into the Yangxing building. Assistant Zhang, early. After entering the door, some staff greeted Zhang Gao one after another morning. Zhang Gao also responded with a smile to these people now. Just a month ago, in recognition of his errands, Sri gave Zhang Gao the title of assistant and gave him an office. This made him overjoyed, and now what he likes most is that these employees call him Assistant Zhang. Zhang Gao, who walked into his office today, took a small sip after smelling the tea aroma. After brewing a good cup of tea, it's a good tea, as expected of Langjing before the rain. Zhang Gao secretly praised in his heart. This is a businessman who wants to buy stocks, and it is specially given to him for help. In fact, Zhang Gao doesn't understand tea at all, but it doesn't prevent him from pretending to be a literati. The whole knock on the door disturbed Zhang Gao's humanistic mentality. After sitting on the office chair, Zhang Gao said, "Come in." Officer Zhang, Mr. Sri asked you to come over, an employee said to him. After he came in. Okay, go right away. Hearing his boss's call, Zhang Gao couldn't care about pretending to be gentle and immediately stood up and walked all the way to Stri's office. What's the boss's order? Stri, who was busy in the office, looked up at Zhang Gao who nodded and bowed. Go and give me this to the newspaper. After speaking, he took out a note and handed it to Zhang Gao. Okay boss, I'll do it right away. After getting the note given by Sri, Zhang Gao took a rickshaw to Shanghai New News and gave his boss to the president of the new newspaper, Bok. I see, you can go back. The next day, on the headlines of the Shanghai Xinbao, it was published that Willis Rubber Company planned to invite a group of people who bought shares of its own company to go sightseeing in the Nanyang rubber plantation. As soon as this news was released, the public recognized Willis Company even more, and its stock price directly broke through the 102 mark. Instead, Uncle Who and his neighbors made a fortune. The news from Stree is really great. Are we starting to release our stocks now? Stoker asked Stree. Don't be busy and let it go. Today Carrie Road from Hutong sent me an invitation to attend a dinner party organized by them. I agreed. Stree told him it seems that they want to come in too. Stoker told Stree his own understanding. I think so. But it's good. More people can participate in this speculation, and we can make more money. Stree said his plan. It's good to try it out. Stoker agreed. At 7 p.m. in the Anglo-American Club, a group of European and American businessmen were attending this dinner hosted by Carrie Road. A group of people chatted and drank in their own small circles, and there was laughter from time to time, making the whole dinner party so lively. Mr. Stree is here. The voice of the announcement came from the door, making these people stand up. Everyone wants to see what the most famous person in Shanghai, Mr. Stree from Willis Rubber Company, looks like. Stree lived up to expectations and walked in wearing a British evening dress. His handsome appearance, slender figure, and a polite demeanor made many girls intoxicated. Mr. Stree, it's an honor to have you here. Carrie Road, who hosted the party, stepped forward and shook hands with Stree with a warm expression. You must know that you are the focus of many people's discussions now. Now half of the people at the party are attending to get to know you. After hearing Carrie Deo's words, Stree replied with his well-trained noble etiquette. It's my honor. I'm very grateful to Mr. Carrie Road for the invitation. I also thank everyone for their warm expectations. After speaking, Stree saluted the people around him, and his behavior attracted applause. Tonight you are more popular than me. Looking at the performance of the young man in front of him, Carrie Deo jokingly laughed. After arriving at the dinner venue, Stree immediately became the focus of everyone. Some introduced themselves, some attracted investment, and some hoped to become a shareholder in Willis, but most of them were asking him if he had a fiancée. In front of all kinds of people who asked, Stree answered their questions with reason. After sending another young lady who asked if she had a fiancé, Carrie Road stepped forward and asked, Mr. Stree, do you need a break? Stree, who knew that the show was coming, replied, just a little tired. Do you have a room for me to rest? Of course. Please come with me. The two walked to a relatively remote room on the second floor, and Carrie Road opened the door and said, inside please. After Stree entered the door, he found that there were several people sitting in this room. Let me introduce you. Carrie Road guided Stree and introduced him to the people in the room. This is my partner, Mr. Wetui. Carrie Deo pointed to a slightly fat middle-aged man in his 40s. Nice to meet you, Mr. Wetu. Stree said after stepping up to shake hands with Wetu. Nice to meet you too, Mr. Stree. After introducing its partners, Carrie Road continued to introduce to Stree, Deo Hua Yang Hang Laside, Jardine Masons Chabal, Tek Hua Yang Hang Borman, and so on. At the end, Carrie Road introduced him. This is Langler's Wheatside. Nice to meet you. Looking at the rubber advocate next to him in front of him, Stree shook his hand with a smile on his face. I'm also very happy to meet you, Mr. Stree. Seeing Stree, who cut himself off, maybe, and also responded with a smile. After seeing that they knew each other, Carrie Road first stood up and talked about it. Everyone sits together this time, and everyone knows what it is for. I know, it's all for rubber. Facing Carrie Road's question, everyone answered. Well, I won't talk nonsense anymore. The hype of rubber prices this time is inseparable from the joint efforts of everyone. Among them, Mr. Stree played a major role. Now we need to advance and retreat together, so that everyone can achieve harvest. Jiley Deo asked Stree, after he finished speaking. Do you think I'm right, Mr. Stree? Seeing everyone looking at him, Stree knew that the group of people in front of him had discussed it, and he could only speak, yes, I think so too. After hearing Stree's reply, Carrie Road continued. We need to continue to advocate the usefulness of rubber, and we need to establish more rubber companies to issue stocks, so that King people's enthusiasm for buying rubber stocks can be released. After hearing Carrie Rhodes' words, Stree finally knew why he called come by himself. If more other companies issue stocks, then the one who will have the greatest impact is himself. And Stree thinks he can't be silent anymore. What is your intended compensation for my participation in this operation? Facing Stree's question, Carrie Rhodes replied, we will cooperate fully and drive up your stock price, which is good for everyone. After hearing Carrie Rhodes' words, Stree thought to himself, and after some calculations, Stree agreed to their request. After attending the dinner, Stree returned to the company and told his companions about the break. We did a good job, they just got involved, Felix said with a dissatisfied face. When he heard the news, there's nothing we can do about it. After all, if they come to disrupt the situation, it's hard for us to do it, Stree explained to him. Our main purpose is to seek stability and not to have too many twists and turns. However, with the help of these local snakes, it can also make us safer to earn the money we need. Stoker expressed his opinion. Actually, I think so too. After all, safety is the most important thing, Stree replied. In the days that followed, they saw the help of the local snakes. With their help, Willis stock gradually rose from a price of 100 teals to 300 teals in 3 months. This made the three people feel that it was worthwhile to join them. But in the face of the rubber market in Shanghai, more people could not sit still, and a large number of local banks also joined the hype, and the rubber price was also raised to 6 teals per pound at the end of the year. A high price for a penny. Shanghai is caught in a frenzy of stock speculation, and now everyone is crazy about rubber stocks. Chapter 71 The Rubber Crisis 5. Now Shanghai's dignitaries and wealthy ladies have joined the rubber market. A large amount of gold and silver jewelry has been mortgaged and sold to buy stocks, and the income obtained by officials also bought stocks at the home of Chen Yiking, the owner of Xingyuan Bank. He invited Dai Jiabao, owner of Zhaokang Bank, and Lu Dasheng, owner of Qianyu Bank, to discuss the rubber market together. After some courtesies, Chen Yiking, the host, was the first to ask, what do you think of this rubber market? A lot of people have made a fortune this time in the rubber boom. It's hard to say whether the price can go up now. Lu Dasheng of Qianyu Bank replied. Yeah, I also think the increase in rubber is a little too fast this time, so I don't dare to try it out. Dai Jiabao also expressed his opinion. After hearing the words of the two, Chen Yiking talked about his investigation. I didn't quite believe it before, but I sent someone to investigate and found out. The United States imported 71 million teals of rubber last year, and England also imported 11 million teals. In addition, other countries have more rubber in a year. There is a market of hundreds of millions of silver. Not to mention that the price of rubber is now $621 per pound, and the production cost is very low, so it is a profitable business. When the two heard the results of Chen Yiking's investigation, they knew that this person was also moved. So according to what Brother Yiking meant, we did it last time. That's what I think. The 3 banks of ours alone may have a small plate. I plan to find the 5 banks of Sinyuan, Yuanfeng, Huda, Zida, and Jinda who have close contacts to do it together. We will be the owners and they will help. Look at it all. The two heard what Chen Yiking meant. It seemed that this man was planning to make a big deal. Dai Jiabao wanted to know how much he planned to make, so he asked, Brother Yiking, there is a gold master standing behind you. If you have less, you can't justify it. The sponsor Dai Jiabao said was Shi Diantang, who was the prefect of Guangzhou and was later transferred to the General Revenue and Expenditure of the Sichuan Hanzhou Railway Company, in charge of the railway company funded by the Sichuan people. Now he has 3.5 million in railway construction funds, and he has put 2 million in Chen Yiking's bank for him to operate. He is a veritable big money owner. The 3 of us add up to only 6 million teals. I think it is still too little. I plan to have tens of millions of teals to make this rubber plate. After the two heard Chen Yiking's words, they both felt that this man was really ambitious. This was to control the rhythm of the rubber market. Seeing the silent two, Chen Yiking asked, dare to do it with me? As long as we succeed, we can all make a fortune. Lu Dasheng, who was inspired by Chen Yiking, replied, Brother Yiking wants to be a big one, and I will accompany you as a guarantee. After all, my Qianyu Qianzhuang also has your share. Dai Jiabao, who was awakened by Lu Dasheng's words, secretly scolded confused. Chen Yiking also has a share in his own bank, which is not too small. Now I can only walk with him for a while also mentioned. I'm also willing to accompany brother Yiking for a walk. Seeing that both of them agreed, Chen Yiking said with a smile, cheer up, then we'll just play him live. After delivering a heroic speech, Chen Yiking continued, when the two of you go back, you can issue more banker tickets and raise money. We will make up for the money we make. After some deliberation, the two left Chen's house and prepared to go. After seeing them off, Chen Yiking went to the study and planned to write letters to the 5 closely connected banks, namely Siniyuan, Yuanfeng, Huda, Zida, and Jinda, and let them also enter the field to work together in the popular rubber industry. Within 2 days, Chen Yiking's letter was placed in the hands of Yan Yibin, the owner of Siniyuan Bank. This Yan Yibin is a red-topped businessman, and he is too popular. He has 3 banks, one is Siniyuan Bank, and the other is Yuan Fengren Bank and another one called Yuantang Bank. In this Yuan Fengren Bank, you can see that he is completely red. Yuan Fengren is the largest bank in Shanghai and one of the largest banks in China. He has branches in Hankou, Shenzhen, Beijing, Guangzhou and other places, and he has 17 branches nationwide. In his bank, there are not only the deposits of ordinary people, but also a large amount of government funds, customs tariff income, and war indemnities paid to foreign powers on a regular basis. Now, after reading Chen Yiking's letter, Yan Yibin, who is so red, is also thinking about the gains and losses secretly. Now the good performance of the rubber makes him excited, but he is also clear about the risks. After thinking for a while, finally greed blinded the heart of the red-topped businessman. He replied to Chen Yiking that he would support this speculative operation of Xingyuan Bank. Chen Yiking, who was waiting at home, received replies from these 5 companies, all willing to enter the rubber market together. Chen Yiking was overjoyed when he got the news, and now he is full of energy and has the spirit to guide the financial world. Subsequently, a large number of funds from the bank entered the market. Among them, Chen Yiking's Xingyuan Bank, Zhaokang Bank, and Qianyu Bank invested 7 million taels of silver, and the stock price reached a new high. Shanghai Star Stock Willis Rubber stock broke through 500 taels in one fell swoop. At this time, the banking community represented by HSBC announced that it would accept the payment for goods secured by the stocks of 14 rubber companies including Willis. Subsequently, Chinese banks followed suit, also announcing that they could use stocks as collateral. Stimulated by these 2 good news, the crowd has gone completely crazy. Completely unable to listen to the voice of persuasion, a large number of people began to mortgage to buy stocks. Seeing the gradually rising prices, Stree and the others also felt that it was almost the same. Willis Company Nestri arranged for 2 assistants. We can release our stocks slowly, and I believe there will be good harvests. I'm going to release our stock right now. Stoker, who was impatient before, completely agreed with this. He has been intimidated by the current stock price, and now the 10 times the issue price makes him uneasy. Stockle, don't be in a hurry. We have a lot of stocks in our hands. 3 to 4 months is a reasonable release time. It must be released slowly and safely. Seeing his eager mood, Stree warned again and again. Speaking of okay, I will pay attention, and I won't let others find out. Seeing Stree said solemnly, Stoker also knew that it was a big deal, and it was related to whether they could evacuate safely. Felix told the other group that we were starting to release stocks to coordinate with each other. Okay, I'll bring them news. Felix replied to Stree's arrangement. Their subsequent slow release of stocks caused no turbulence in the frenetic stock market. After it was fully released in April, Willis' share price has exceeded the 1,000 mark. Now Shanghai, the largest financial center in the Far East, is also in a state of no cash. Now Stree and the others know that they need to prepare for a safe evacuation. Chapter 70 to the rubber crisis end. By the end of May, the price of rubber was also rising steadily, reaching 11 shillings a pound, and now all those who speculate on rubber believe that the price of rubber will reach a historic high for a pound of rubber. The stock price of Willis also reached a high of 1,500 taels, but there is no cash transaction in Shanghai, and anyone with a vision knows that this is a prelude to the bursting of the bubble. In the Willis building, the three of STRI are also preparing to retreat. Let's wait for a while and plan to let us leave in June. Stoker said the instructions from the country. Now that we have done everything we should do, and the money has been transferred, why don't we let us evacuate? Felix expressed his dissatisfaction. Now if people know the current situation of Willis Company, everyone will tear it apart. Of course he was afraid in the face of such a situation. The message was that we needed to cooperate with an action at home and in the United States. Stoker explained. We'll be in danger for one more day now. Faced with this situation, can't you tell the boss about it? Okay Felix, we are very safe now. The dividend has only been distributed, and it will not be a problem to persist for 2 months. Faced with Felix's complaints, STRI said soothingly. Okay, I'm impatient. Felix could only agree to understand that both of them were willing to cooperate. After the three of them negotiated, they continued to do the company's daily work until Stoker received a telegram that said, "Your nephew was born weighing 6 pounds and 12 pence, and we are going to celebrate him tomorrow." Stoke took the telegram in his hand and hurried to STRI's office, intending to tell him the good news. "STRI, I got the news." Stoker opened the door and said, only to see a gal Zhang in STRI's office. "You can do it with Zhang." Seeing Stoker's stern face, STRI hurriedly dismissed Zhang. "A gal. Good boss." Zhang Gal still looked like a dog and greeted him when he passed by Stoker. "Goodbye Mr. Stoker." "Goodbye Zhang." After answering Zhang Gal, Stoker closed the door and walked to STRI and whispered to him. The news came from above. On June 12th. They released a news, "Let us go the next day. There are 10 days left, enough for us to prepare." STRI said. "Does this really work?" Stoker asked. "Why else would we raise an illiterate poor man to the heights he is now? He has enjoyed status, money, fame, and women that were impossible before, and now it's time for him to return everything." Obviously they were talking about Zhang Gao, who just walked out, a good and loyal dogleg that was sold by the owner like this. In the following days, the three of them each found a reason to leave and let Zhang Gao watch over the company. This made Zhang Gao overjoyed, thinking that he was very close to tapen. On June 12th, in STRI's office, the three were talking about the final exit route. We each went out to meet at the old sailors bar by the pier, and the liner at 7 o'clock in the evening first went to the United States and turned back to Romania. Stoke said the arrangement of the route. What about the others? Felix asked Stoker. "I don't know either. Don't ask about Felix." Stoke warned him. After hearing Stoke's words, Felix shook his head and waved his hand to indicate that he would not ask. "Get ready to go. I'll leave last," STRI said. Soon Felix and Stoke found a reason to leave first, and STRI called Zhang Gao into the office. "Zhang, you have done a great job recently. I'm very pleased. This is the result of your cultivation, boss." Zhang Gao heard STRI's praise, said with a condescending smile. "I have the idea of promoting you as manager now, but it depends on your recent performance." Zhang Gao felt that he was dreaming, and Tapen, whom many people were so desperately pursuing, waved to him like this, and hurriedly talked about it after he reacted. "Thanks to the boss for the promotion. I will definitely try my best to perform." Looking at Zhang Gao, who was still daydreaming in front of him, STRI suddenly felt a little sore in his nose. "You don't need to express your attitude. I have an appointment with a beautiful lady for dinner. Now the company is handed over to you. I have something important to talk about when I go to work tomorrow. Like going on a date. Good boss. I will be optimistic about these employees and won't let them be lazy. Then STRI got into his car and drove all the way to the old sailors bar, where he saw the two people who had already made up in a secret room. Hurry up and finish your macup. We are going to take the boat. After a while, three working class people walked out of the bar, and after listening to their tone, they planned to leave Shanghai to look for opportunities in the United States. These three people boarded the Angel liner. At 7 o'clock the liner started on time and left with three successful people. News spread across Shanghai the next morning that US and European automakers were planning to ditch rubber tires, arguing that the current price of rubber made them unaffordable. In the afternoon, an even more sensational news came out. The owner and manager of Willis Company, the largest rubber company in Shanghai, disappeared. This news shocked everyone. Whether it was a rental company or a Chinese bank, they were looking for the three of Stree, and finally they found Stree's car at the nearby dock, which ignited everyone's anger. The crowd, armed with Willis stock, stormed the building, smashing everything they saw. Zhang Gao, who has always been a confidant of Stree, was taken to the patrol room to ask about the whereabouts of the three of Stree. Later, it was reported that Zhang Gao committed suicide in the cell. The news of Stree's fleeing with money caused all rubber stocks to fall, and the stock market was full of people selling rubber stocks. It's a shame that no one is taking over the rubber stock right now. The stock price fell by less than half in a day. Willis stock has become a piece of waste paper. Now many people who have invested their lives in it are completely unable to accept the news. Some people have gone crazy and some committed suicide. Bankruptcies have also gone bankrupt in large numbers, and Shanghai has entered the Great Depression period for a while. The success of Romania is also reckoning with this harvest. A staff member who counted the results was reporting the results to Callist, who was in charge of the operation. After our calculation, this time we invested £2.07 million, and the actual investment was £1.8 million. The initial cost was £380,000, and the midterm publicity and other costs were £100,000. In the end, we received a total of £4.06 million of funds, after deducting costs. Then we made a profit of £2.26 million, which can be said to be a huge success. After giving this report to me, the others can be destroyed. Karras told the staff member. Karras took the report in his hand and planned to report the results to Crown Prince Edel. Chapter 73 New Aircraft. After sending off a group of people preparing for the rubber crisis, Karras briefed the Crown Prince. Now Edel trusts his captain of the bodyguard, so he gave this matter to him. More than a month later, a guard came to report that Henry Konda and the others had completed the task of entrusting the army to them and planned to invite the Crown Prince to check it out. Thinking that this was the first batch of military aircraft in Romania, Edel agreed and planned to take a look at the handover on the second day at the original flight base, now called Konda Aircraft Factory. Edel met Henry Konda, who had been discharged, and his assistant, Fireku, and the Army's newly formed Army Air Corps officer, Major Ankurdra. Kanda, how are you feeling after being discharged from the hospital? Edel asked with concern. The famous Romanian aviator. I was so bad in the hospital that I couldn't see my beloved plane. Konda answered the Crown Prince before continuing. Actually, this time I designed the aircraft for the army, mainly my assistant Fireku. The ability is not worse than mine, but I'm a bit luckier than him. After finishing speaking, Konda also pulled his assistant and planned to sell him. I have known your assistant for a long time, and he is also an amazing pilot. After Edel finished speaking to Konda, he reached out to Fireku and said, being able to build and help the army build aircraft this time has made a deep impression on you, Mr. Fireku. Thank you very much, Your Royal Highness. It is an honor for me to be able to help Romania. After hearing Fireku's words, Edel let go of his hand and spoke to Anchorage, the army receiving officer. After receiving this batch of aircraft, you must think about their use. In the future, the aircraft should be used not only for reconnaissance, but this new department of yours needs to think carefully. After hearing the words of the Crown Prince, the current head of the aviation team replied, Your Highness, we will pay attention to what you say. Seeing that it is almost said, Konda said, Your Highness, let's go and see the plane first. Alright. After hearing the Crown Prince's reply, several people walked outside the hangar and saw 8 planes that had already been built. At this time, Fireku came out and saluted the Crown Prince and said, since it is mainly designed by me, then I will explain the general data of this aircraft to His Royal Highness. After hearing Fireku's words, Edel and his party stood by the plane and nodded to indicate that they could start explaining. His Royal Highness, we named this aircraft Pioneer. It has 2 layers of wings, of which the fuselage is 13.2 meters long, the wingspan is 10.1 meters long, and the distance between the wings is 1.2 meters. The main body of the fuselage is a hollow steel frame structure, in which the wood surface is stitched, and the skin is sewn. On the engine of the nose, we use the French Landgod rotary cylinder engine. We add a circle of iron around the seat to prevent the ground-to-air craft shooting from hurting the pilot. Hearing Fureku's continuous explanation of the performance of the aircraft, Edel suddenly discovered that perhaps this Konda's assistant was the real aircraft designer, and Konda was more of an adventurer and pilot. I didn't know that Edel suddenly took a fancy to his Fureku and asked after explaining the structure of the aircraft, "Your Highness, what do you think of this aircraft?" After hearing Fureku's words, Edel retracted his mind and continued to ask, "What's its flight distance and lift now?" Hearing the Crown Prince's question, Fureku replied, "Because this aircraft is now stronger than what we have built before, its flight distance is slightly shorter than our previous one. The maximum flight distance is about 80 kilometers, and the liftoff limit is about 3 kilometers. After listening to Fureku's explanation, Edel knew that the current plane was just a decoration, and he could only continue to encourage it. It's a good job. You must continue to work hard to develop more advanced aircraft. Let's see what the pilots do." After the Crown Prince finished speaking, I saw the head of the aviation team, Ankadra, waving to the people next to him. Immediately, a pilot came up and got on a plane. The staff next to him started to start the engine, and the plane gradually accelerated and flew into the sky. Edel looked at the plane taking off and whispered to Konda and Fureku beside him, "Now this pioneer aircraft can only solve the basic needs of the army. The range is still too short, and the practicality is not very good." After Konda and Fureku heard the Crown Prince's words, they looked at each other and finally asked by Konda, "Your Highness, what kind of aircraft do you think should be used to meet the needs of the military?" "The maximum distance between planes should be more than 120 kilometers, preferably 150 kilometers. The stay in the air should be more than 40 minutes, and the current liftoff limit is enough. It's better to be firmer." Edel said that the first battle the aircraft data in the early stage was obtained with great difficulty in the previous life investigation, so it was very impressive. In the face of the unusual request of the Crown Prince, the two felt a lot of pressure. After some eye contact, Konda spoke to the Crown Prince. "His Royal Highness, we will incorporate your request into the manufacture of our next aircraft. I believe we will make this aircraft in a year or two. I'm waiting for your good news. If you really do it, I plan to ask the army to purchase more than 24 of this new aircraft." After the Crown Prince made the request, he still gave the carrot as usual. "Thank you, Your Highness, for your support." After caring about the plane, the Crown Prince began to care about the pilot. "Major Ankarella, is this plane in the sky now being piloted by your aviation team?" "Yes, Your Highness. We sent 12 soldiers to learn how to fly an airplane 3 months ago. Now, His Royal Highness the Crown Prince is doing the flight demonstration with the best pilot we have learned, Janai Rasku." Edel was suddenly interested in the name and asked, "Tell me about this Janai Rasku." "Okay, Your Highness." Under the explanation of Major Ankerdra, Edel learned that this Janai Rasku was born in Niasi, and his family was a homesteader. When he was young, he was called to the choir by a local priest because of his cute looks, where the priest taught him to read. When he was 11 years old, he was sent to school by his father, and his grades were relatively good. At the age of 18, due to family reasons, he did not continue to study. Later, he joined the army and was chosen by Major Anchorage as a pilot. After Major Anchorage finished speaking, the Janai Rasku also drove the plane and landed smoothly on the ground. "Rasku, come here." Major Anchorage called to the army's first pilot who had just flown. After this, Janai Rasku took off his flying cap. Everyone said a handsome guy in their hearts. Edel just said in his heart that the version of Leonardo is still the big ship version. The replica Leonardo said, after walking up to Edel and bending over to salute, "I have seen Your Highness. Hello, Irasku. Major Anchorage has already mentioned you to me, and I hope you can make a greater contribution to the army." "Yes, Your Highness, I will do better." After Irasku stepped back, Edel spoke to the three. "This is the first practical aircraft in Romania, and I hope that more new aircraft will appear in Romania in the future." "Your Highness." Chapter 74 Remediation of State-Owned Enterprises. After inspecting the new aircraft at the Konda Aircraft Factory, Edel returned to the palace. "Your Highness, this is the report on the expansion of the Constanta steel plant." Returning to Edel, whose buttocks had just fallen on the chair in the palace, He saw a guard come in with an application document and handed it to the Crown Prince. Edel took the report and rubbed his temples. "Let me consider, your highness. Why don't you take a rest first?" the guard said when he saw the tired Crown Prince. "No, you go out first. I'll take a look and then talk." After getting the answer from the Crown Prince, the guard walked out of the office. Edel picked up the expansion report and read it. In this report, the general manager of the steel plant Deswegen wrote, "Thanks to the establishment of numerous factories in Romania in recent years, especially the consumption of the Volkswagen plant, the steel plant is now operating at full capacity. The supply of steel to Romania has reached its limit and funds are needed to expand production capacity. Since it is a state-owned enterprise that needs to hand over profits and the government is currently in a shortage of funds, the funds are not enough now, and I want the Crown Prince to approve the factory. To intercept funds, isn't this the responsibility of the government department? Why did it come to me?" Edel thought to himself after seeing the application report. "If you don't understand, let someone who knows come." The Crown Prince called the guard and asked him to call the Minister of Industry Karachuri to come over tomorrow. The next day, Minister of Industry Karachuri came to the Crown Prince's office. "I have seen your highness Karachuri. Why is this construction report on my desk?" Edel asked him out of Deswegen's report. "Can your highness show me first?" asked the Minister of Industry, who was a little confused. "Let's take a look first." After speaking, Edel handed him the report. After reading the report at a glance, Karachuri said to the Crown Prince with a smile, "This is indeed what I refuse. Can you tell me the reason?" Edel knew that the nephew of Prime Minister Stulia was also a shrewd person, and there must be a reason for his refusal. Actually, the main reason is that Deswegen did not state in the report that the purchase of smelting equipment this time is for Italian products, and it is second-hand equipment, and the price is 50% of German. As you continue. Edel continued to ask, looking at Karachuri with a confident face. Accordingly, the price is reasonable. However, I understand that the equipment this time is a bit outdated. It is the equipment that the Taranto steel plant is preparing to phase out. I don't think these equipment will be of much use to Romania, so I did not approve it. I didn't expect it will bypass me and hand this construction report to the Crown Prince. After listening to Karachuri's words, Edel had a little judgment in his heart. Call Milik over here. After sending off the Minister of Industry, Edel explained to the guards. Not long after Milik came to the Crown Prince's office to salute, the intelligence chief asked, "Your Highness, look for me. I have something for you to do this time." Edel tells Milik about the expansion of the steel plant. "Your Highness wants me to investigate this Deswegen. Yes, I will put his report on His Royal Highness's table soon." After sending the intelligence chief away, Edel wondered if someone was out of their minds. After receiving the task from the Crown Prince, Milik returned to the office and instructed a subordinate, "Call Shirka here." "Director, call me." The average-looking Shirka in civilian clothes asked lazily, after entering. "Yes, I have a task for you here." Milik pretended not to see his attitude. "What important task?" Milik told Shirka what the Crown Prince asked him to do. "Head small tasks like this. You can hand over to new people and they can do it too." It can be seen that this Shirka is very popular with Milik. "This is my request." Facing his ace, Milik rarely got angry. Then, after completing this task, "Head, you have to give me a few days off." "What are you going to do again?" "I'm going on a trip to relax myself." "Okay, but I'll see this report on my desk the morning after tomorrow." Milik made it harder for his subordinates. Small issue. Seeing this Shirka, who gave him a headache, Milik thought in his heart that, if it weren't for your high efficiency, he would have asked you to flush the toilet long ago. This time the Crown Prince asked him to do business, which made Milik attach great importance to his performance in front of the Crown Prince. Everyone knows that King Carol is delegating power to the Crown Prince, and now Milik has a thorough understanding of the character of the Crown Prince. This Highness is very interested in the ability of his subordinates. If you look at the people promoted by the Crown Prince, you will know that no ability is as good as his eyes. Previously, the Crown Prince had handed over general intelligence work to his chief guard. This makes Milik very dangerous, and it is difficult to say that it is difficult to retire safely from doing intelligence work. Now this is an opportunity. He wants the Crown Prince to see his abilities, so he asked his ace to investigate a small task. The ace Mr. Milik saw lived up to his expectations and handed him the report the next evening. Milik looked at the report in his hand, and in his heart he felt incredible for the greed of this Mr. Dazwigan. While we usually take knacker at the factory, this expansion project was caused by an Italian businessman. After the businessman had purchased equipment to be phased out at the Taranto steel plant, he contacted Dazwigan and planned to sell it to the Constanta steel plant at the second-hand price. Among them, Mr. Dazwigan gets 70% of the difference, while the Italian businessman gets only 30%. It's no wonder that after Minister Karastu refused, he still planned to take advantage of it. This is really money blinding his eyes. Even the IQ is not enough. After receiving the investigation report, Milik immediately entered the palace to report to Edel. After hearing Milik's report, Edel was amazed. He could now understand the strange behavior of domestic officials he had seen in his previous life. It was not a matter of intelligence, but something entice blinded his eyes. Edel looked at the investigation report in his hand and told Milik, "You go to this case and get all the money he took back." Yes, Your Highness. After seeing Milik go down, Edel sat on the chair and sighed long. Milik asked the people in Constanta to arrest Dazwigan overnight, and the Italian businessman was also arrested. Where are the two opponents of intelligence officers? After a little interrogation, they poured beans into a bamboo tube and said everything. This Dazwigan has embezzled more than 4 million lei by using his position for more than 3 years. They also arranged their relatives to various departments with sufficient oil and water. If the production of the steel plant had not been able to meet the needs of Romania, they would have been discovered long ago. Karastu, you send people to thoroughly investigate all state-owned factories. I will ask Milik to help you in secret. Holding Milik's interrogation report in his hand, the Crown Prince said to the Minister of Industry, who was called. Okay, Your Highness. After sending Karastu away, Edel called the palace chief Viscount Adri. What are your orders, Your Highness? You also send people to check the factories of our royal family. Okay, Your Highness. With Edel's order, every state-run and royal family factory welcomed inspectors, making some people with dirty hands secretly anxious in their hearts during the inspection. A total of 5 factory supervisors were interrogated and investigated because the amount was too large. 9 were given written warnings for the small amount of money and demanded a refund of the embezzled amount. Finally, after a month and a half of inspections, the atmosphere of each enterprise has been reversed. This inspection also gave officials a warning that if they can inspect state-owned enterprises, they can also inspect you. Many officials in the government also put their hands down a little, which is a bit of a warning to the monkeys. Chapter 75 Food Processing Industry. After the rectification of these Romanian state-owned enterprises, Romania has a new atmosphere. In the view of the Crown Prince, the country, like a machine, needs regular maintenance and replacement of damaged parts. After punishing the worms, Edel looked at an agricultural report in his hand. Thanks to the mass production of fertilizers, now Romania's food production has also increased. After a large amount of food was planted, it was consumed locally in Romania, especially in several emerging industrial cities. Now some smart people see the business opportunity and put it into the food processing industry. This has changed the Romanian grain, which has always been exported at low prices, to a certain extent. It seems that I have neglected the grain processing industry. Edel commented to himself in his heart that, as a grain exporter, he forgot this fast-acting grain deep processing industry. However, as a light industry, Edel does not intend to enter this industry. It is still possible to support it through financial means. Thinking of this, Edel wrote an instruction and called a guard. Leave it to Governor Wiriachi. Okay, Your Highness. In the Industrial and Commercial Bank of Romania, President Wiriachi looked at the instructions given by the Crown Prince. As a royal family holding bank, it also has a lot of responsibilities when it gets the convenience of the royal family, and many times it has to cooperate with the instructions of the Crown Prince. The funds in the bank are not very sufficient now, so we can only choose a good corporate support, Wiriachi said to himself. After making up his mind, he called the secretary. Send this to the branch below. Good general manager. The secretary took Iriach's documents and walked out of the office, intending to send telegrams to each branch point in Ukba County, Moldova region. The economy here is a typical agricultural growing area. Here, both land nobles and businessmen are evolving around the theme of food cultivation. Most of these merchants are engaged in the business of seeds, fertilizers, farm tools, livestock, etc., while the nobles consider the output of the land, what to plant this year, and what to plant next year. Not long ago, a businessman named Bubak opened a local grain processing factory to sell flour. The business was not bad. I heard that he sold them all to Constanta. Now he plans to continue his efforts to open a biscuit factory, and now Bobaka is worried about funds. Villas, look at the factory first, and then I'll find Lex from the bank. Bobak said to his son. Father, is this really okay? You've been looking for him a few times, and we still have a big gap in our mortgage loan, or we'll find other ways. Brack's son, Villas, said. Those are vampires lending usury. I've seen too many people who have been bankrupt by them. Unless I have to, I won't find those vampires. Don't try to use this method all the time. Black taught a lesson to his own son. Although Romania now has several large state-owned and royal banks, the private lending market has always existed. They make a profit by lending at high interest rates to people who can't borrow money in the bank. Most of these lenders are powerful locals, and they are not afraid of those who borrow money lazy. It also played a role in promoting Romania's industrial development before, but their life was not so easy under the impact of several major banks. There are still tenacious survivors, Edel also notes, but there is no way to completely eradicate them. This involves the local nobles and rich people, and even the crown prince does not dare to act rashly now. After teaching his son a lesson, Blake put on decent clothes and came to the branch of the Industrial and Commercial Bank of China in Ukaba. Is President Lex here? Blake said to the front desk staff with a smile, after tidying up his clothes. Mr. Blake, are you looking for the branch manager again, or is it because of that loan? The staff member asked him politely. Yes, the amount you gave is not enough for the construction of the new factory. I would like to ask if it can be increased a bit. Even in the face of small staff, Brack answered politely. After all, a factory is inseparable from a bank. If you offend him, I don't know that it can ruin your affairs that day. Now that the branch manager is in the office, let me ask you. Seeing that Blake was so polite, the clerk felt a little embarrassed. Sorry to bother you. You're welcome. After seeing the staff member go in to report, Blake sat on the bench next to him and waited. After the clerk who went to report came out, he saw Blake, who was waiting on the bench, talking. Mr. Brack, the branch manager has let you in. Thank you for your help. After Brack thanked the little clerk, he walked to the door of the branch manager Lex's office and knocked on the door. Please come in. Blake opened the door and saw Lex busy. After the branch manager looked up at Blake, he continued to speak. Mr. Brack, please take a seat. I'll be right away. Okay, I can wait. Blake found a stool and sat on it and waited. After a while, the Lex branch manager asked, after finishing his work, Mr. Brack, are you still taking a loan this time? Yes, I need 230,000 lei to build a biscuit factory this time, but I only have 40,000 in savings now. The gap is a bit big. Brack said his intention. The branch manager of Lex, who was sitting behind his desk, said after listening to his message, Mr. Brack, how much does your current processing plant cost? 115,000 lei. Lex, who heard Black's answer, continued. Mr. Brack, you should know the rules of the bank mortgage loan. I know. Our bank gives you a mortgage of 100,000 lei, which is the highest price. We can't borrow as much as you need, and I don't have that right. Mr. Black, do you understand what I mean? The head of the Sri Lanka branch also had a headache for this somewhat stubborn middle-aged man. He had run to the bank several times, and Lex had no choice but to hope that he would give up this time. After hearing Lex's words, Blake still asked a little reluctantly, is there really no way, Mr. Brack? Da. Just when Lex was going to give him up completely, there was a knock on the door. Come in. Lex was a little uncomfortable with the knock on the door that interrupted his speech, but it's not easy to get angry now. President, this is a new instruction from the head office. After opening the door, a clerk took out a telegram and handed it to Lex. After hearing the instructions from the head office, Lex didn't care what he said to Blake and picked up the telegram signed by Ploiesti and read it. In this telegram, the head office instructed that each branch could give preferential treatment to the food processing industry within its jurisdiction. For enterprises with good assets, the loan scale can be appropriately expanded. In general, it can support the food processing industry to a certain extent. After reading the telegram, Lex had only one thought. Brack, this stubborn guy, is really lucky. After reading the telegram, Lex looked at Blake, who was sitting in front of him. Mr. Brack, we can give you a certain amount of discount for this loan. According to your situation, you can loan 180,000 lei. Hearing Lex's sudden change of tone, Blake was ecstatic in his heart. I didn't give up hope, who knew that there was such a good thing, and I didn't care to ask why. Brack quickly thanked him. Thank you, President Lex. Very grateful. Seeing the somewhat incoherent Blake, Lex called a bank clerk to handle the payment for him. The food processing industry received support from the bank because of an order from Edel. Many people have benefited, and this industry, which has only begun to develop in Romania, has the opportunity to continue to grow. I believe that in a few years, they will have the opportunity to repay the care of the Crown Prince. End of this chapter. Thank you very much for reaching the end. Don't forget to like. Looking for more exclusive content and immediate access? Subscribe to our Patreon. Remember, every like, subscription, or donation encourages us to continue. Thanks to everyone. See you in the next video.